I am not set up to be a professional. And we're back. Which, on the holy night, beep boop. Burr, 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 burr. Where? Next episode. Oh, right. Alice is about to just murder the entire cast, isn't she? The melody stirred an emotion like nostalgia within them. Something once familiar but now lost to this world. They believed beyond a shadow of a doubt that it would play for all eternity, from opening stanza to final coda. It was a mysterious siren song, merry yet longing, that heralded a return from dreams to reality. The night shook. A song was spun. Now their lost paradise was unearthed. Abandoned dreams, forsaken idols. They all responded to the cry of the blue cat. Kitty! It's cute! The name of that bell was Diddle Diddle, Banquet of the Night. All fables made possible, all marvels made real, by the magecraft of Alice Kuonji, more magical than magic itself. How selfish of you. Is that something you can really decide on your own, Aoko? She is not having it. That look is just, I'm going to kill everything in my way. Alice sat perched atop the clock tower like a black bird of ill omen. She smoothed the ruffles of her skirt as if she was preening. Alice. There was a tension in Aoko's voice as she lifted her head. The calm atmosphere from a moment prior had long since been shooed away by Alice's gaze. That girl. I've seen her somewhere before. Sojiro searched his hazy memory. He could not clearly make out her face at the distance, but he was sure he had seen her around town a number of times. Where and when eluded him, however, as the tension in the air kept him from connecting all the dots. Well, isn't it this turn of events? I didn't know you cared so much, Alice. I thought you were going to leave tonight to me. Aoko readied her guard and took half a step forward unconsciously. From an objective standpoint, it almost looked as though she were protecting the figure beside her. Alice's silence grew ever heavier. Her eyes, fixed on the ground below her, were devoid of emotions. An indescribable sense of dread and pressure laid claim over the plaza. A bell? If he strained his ears, he could make out the faint ringing of a bell echoing in the distance. The rippling sound waves seemed unbelievably to emanating from under the ground. Hey, Aoki, that girl, she's quiet. Sojiro stepped back, trying to stay out of the way. It was as though he had been told to go to hell for the crime of asking if the girl was Aoko's friend. I wouldn't go as far as to say I cared. I simply had a feeling something might be wrong and came to check. It's not as though I had any doubts regarding your ability to handle the job. Much appreciated. It would have been nice if you had thought it to come check just a little bit earlier, though. As you can see, things seem to have worked themselves out. It's late, so don't let me keep you, Alice. Since you have no doubts about my abilities, right? Their eyes locked on one another. They are gonna fight! 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 They both look so ready to just claw each other's eyes out at this moment. Aoko was bold, daring Alice to air her complaints. I think I've changed my mind. I'm here now, so why don't the two of us go home? That's more your style anyway, Aoko. You could tell me all about your adventures with the puppet on the way. What's that supposed to mean? Go home, Alice. Shut yourself in your room and make some more of your worthless birds. A disappointed sigh escaped Alice's delicate lips. It seemed that the black-clad girl was more astonished than angry. Aoko, I hate to say this, but seriously? Quietly, Alice questioned her roommate for nearly 2 years. You surprised me. Did you not say we would protect our secret together? Are you still having trouble letting go of the other side? Or has compassion taken a hold of you? Woo! Girl, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of compassion. Not at all. This isn't compassion. I just feel like doing it this way. No plan survives contact with the enemy. You know that. The same goes for my mood. Besides, who goes out of her way to keep a promise she made forever ago? A little old-fashioned, if you ask me. The proverbial knives were out now. No quarter was given nor taken. Sadly, their partnership was one of convenience and had not reached a level of mutual understanding. Their version of friendship was both delicate and unique. With a conflict of opinion arose, each would refuse to budge until the other crumbled. Neither was concerned for the other's plight, and at least for now, that was how they liked it. You know, I've come to accept stupid outbursts like that from you. Once again, she let out a sigh even larger than the one before. Why don't we save the argument for later? I can make him disappear on my own. Finally, she shot straight to the point. Seriously, this is murder 1. We are picking up from one person trying to kill the other person to, I'm now going to make sure you murder the other person. This is not okay. As if making them to move a chess piece, Alice lifted her slender figure. Even this simple action seemed mysterious to Sojuro, the same boy who had been hunted by his classmate Aoko Aozaki and borne witness to an automaton. Aoko's violence and animated doll, though perhaps far beyond the realm of logic, both these things were derived from reality. As surprised as he had been, there was no need to think of them as total mysteries. However, when the thing appeared out of thin air from seemingly unrelated gesture, he had no word for it besides mysterious. Sojuro stood motionless, captivated by the stage performer's magic trick, as the girl's single-finger magecraft turned into an attack directly. A blue light came from the side to repel it, annihilating it without a trace. Crap. Aoko immediately regretted her reflexive shot. What are you doing? You're not satisfied with breaking just our promise, so you must break the rules as well. The already chilled midwinter air plunged below freezing. Alice looked calm and collected on the outside, but in reality she was something even more hot-blooded than Aoko. This was especially true when it concerned her familiars. Accidentally breaking one would often result in a week of silent treatment, but against someone who maliciously destroyed her things, Alice was prone to retaliate without warning. Oops, I figured I'd do that someday, but I couldn't have picked a worse time. Aoko sighed at herself. Even she was exasperated by her own stupidity. Yet she couldn't help but feel a pang of relief. She did not intend to make excuses, and she had no regrets. If she had broken the rules, then so had Alice. Aoko? How do I put it? If anything, this took a load off her mind. After all, now there was no going back. Aoko never intended to break her own rules. If there was anything for Aoko to regret, it was putting too little power into her shot. I have a problem with the guy dying tonight. So, can we schedule the execution? What difference does a day make? To Aoko, it was simply natural to take a pro bono case in defense of an innocent suspect. Is this personal? Absolutely. 100% of the time. There is no reason this is not personal. So, what if it is? You know that paying back my debts is pretty important to me. More important than our agreement. Sure, depending on the time and place. Sojiro's human rights had not yet entered the argument. The girls were busy pouring oil on each other's flames. This is going to be the best fight in the world. The girl clad in black was the first to move, or rather to erupt. I see. I understand how you feel, Aoko. But I am going to have to kill him here. To believe that you would let him live. Shall I take that to mean you're ready to fight me for it? You know damn well I'd rather not. Aoko bent back the retort. She was very familiar with Alice's magecraft, and knew painfully well how many mystics were hidden in Alice's tiny body. The odds of victory were essentially non-existent. Then why are you doing this? Why do you insist on continuing this fight? And once the first shot had been fired, Alice Kuonji was without mercy, whether facing a roommate or a friend, a most beloved family member or a stranger. Once Alice began to fight as a witch, she became a heartless, unflappable monster. Aoko advanced another half-step forward as if to encourage herself. It was too late to back down now. The situation was no longer a trivial quarrel over a witness. The bedrock of their so-called friendship had nothing to do with their individual abilities and everything to do with being equals in will. That is why, in order to stay true to herself, Aoko had no room for compromise or deception. Of course! I'm gonna make sure this idiot lives, even if it means killing you. And besides... Her magic circuits howled as they kicked into gear. Her body, which had been mostly dormant during the battle, with the puppet ignited, preparing to demonstrate its true worth. We're gonna end up killing each other in the end anyway. Her courage overpowered any fear she had for her opponent. Tuning her body, her magic circuits to become like the barrel of a gun, Aoko fired a magic bullet. It was exceedingly basic magicraft formula. There was no nature interference, no creating of wind, hurting of water, nor hastening of decay. It was simply the process of converting an imaginary activity known as magical energy into something real, before releasing it as heat. Thus, Aoko's destructive power was equal to her supply of magical energy. The magic bullet she had used against Sojiro were becoming the most basic single-action magecraft that did not require an incantation. Tea. At her present ability, Aoko's main mode of attack, her magic bullet, could be fired at 3 levels of power. These were at the 2nd level. This required a double-action magecraft, a casting through activation of her crest, combined with a simplified incantation. And she dodges! Or she just doesn't care. However, without blinking, Alice dispersed the shot that Aoko had mustered all of her spirit to fire. She is just unfazed by that. Aoko tooted in frustration. A swift sneak attack that used a simplified incantation would not be enough to break Alice's guard. As stiff as ever, I see. Don't you think his shell is making you complacent? Aoko provoked Alice in order to disguise her own lack of composure. Somehow Alice seemed delighted by Aoko's bravado. I suppose this is what they call fighting words. I've never fought to the death for such a trivial reason. I'm really shocked. Humans are such conceited creatures. Alice giggled. Smiling with heartfelt amazement, Alice gestured her left hand toward the earth. What is your problem, young lady? Stop! Countless utensils shot out from underneath the cobblestones paving the plaza. Shizuki, get back! Huh? She grabbed his hand as she shouted, jumping backward before he even had a chance to respond. As if they had wills of their own, the utensils had suddenly appeared from the ground, gave chase. As the barrier of spears grew around them, Aoko and Sojiro put some distance between themselves and the clock tower. That's all you got? Just under 30 feet stood between them and Alice. The lethal weapons that had crumbled to the stone beneath them fell short of what Aoko had anticipated. They now encircled the clock tower, making the scene look like a burning of a witch at the stake. Isn't this backwards? You'd expect the spears to try and stop us from escaping. The path behind them was safe. If they wanted, they could try to make a break for the main gate and escape. Are you sure about this, Alice? Sorry, but if you're gonna let me escape, I'm not gonna pass the chance up. If she could just make it back to town, it would be Aoko's win. All she wanted to do was let Sojiro get away for the night, so if she could get him back to the city, it would be, for the most part, mission accomplished. Or so she had thought. Without even offering a glance at her target below, Alice carefully and lovingly pulled out a bottle from her pocket. A green flask? What's that? Damn it! Fire! What is she gonna do? Gone was Aoko's earlier bravado. It was only natural. Aoko had indeed grown as a mage. Over the last few years of study, her studies had progressed well, and she'd more or less gotten a grasp of her roommate's tendencies and abilities. This made her conceited enough to believe that under favorable circumstances... Oh, sleepy. Put some tea in me. This had made her conceited enough to believe that under favorable circumstances she'd be able to show Alice a thing or two in a fight. Alice uncorked the magical bottle. A gentle breeze caressed her cheek. Diddle Diddle fled as a new player stepped onto the stage. But from where would it enter? The sound of footsteps, a nostalgic parade approached. Sure, just illuminate the entire place. Let everyone know you're there. That sounds like the best plan. That's not going to draw attention to the entire world. No way. What emerged was a miracle that Aoko Aozaki, an apprentice mage, had never witnessed. The dead came to life. The inanimate awakened. The woods were enveloped by the mists. Fire-breathing lizards lurked in the swamps. Puppets made merry at midnight. Alice Kuronji's slender fingers had transfigured the entirety of the park, as if gently stroking the back of an elderly cat. Very well. Let us play pretend, Aoko. For one night, the wasteland had dashed hopes and dreams was restored to its former glory. It was an immortal monster ready to devour reality. A dark fairy tale that once unleashed would never let its prey escape. Run if you dare. I don't believe you'll get far. But if you can survive the night, I'll concede this round to you. Her declaration marked the start of a desperate battle. The witch in black laughed at her friend. Her musical mirth filled with affection, sadness, and innocent delight. faded glory returned to Kitsyland. The neon glow of innumerable light illuminated the night. Speakers filled the air with the sound of the final music. Merry-go-rounds, small and large, whirled round and round. All in all, it made for a mind-bending spectacle. It was certainly possible to power the facilities by transmuting magical energy into electricity via alchemy. That said, simply supplying the park with electricity would not have brought back to life that which was broken. The young woman did this not by mixing chemicals into a compound, but by melting down divine providence into a witch's brew. This is bad. I've seen her ploys, and this one is something completely new. Connecting. Stifling her anxiety, Aoko filed up the crest on her right arm. If magical circuits were a mage's engine, then the crest was the software that assisted their magecraft. For the fledgling mage, Aoko, this was her trump card. All she had to do was supply magical energy to her crest-based formula. It may not have been the strongest magecraft, but it was hers, proof that she was a successor to the Awazaki lineage. Execute! Double layer! Direct current to crest. The pattern of her crest shifted to execute the formula, which then connected to her magic circuits. The process resembled trains changing rails, a puzzle involving dozens of circuits. They constructed it as swiftly as possible without sacrificing the quality of its construction. Instant magecraft cast without an incantation. Why is this not animated? I need to see this in animation. Aoko had gauged the strength of Alice's defense with her initial shots. She would dial up the power 5 times the next time, driving 20 tons of force into her target. Alice had the protection of the thick, hanging fog and the dense barrier around her. However, this attack would be more than enough to pierce through both. If Aoko struck home, it would cave in Alice's chest and end the fight. At worst, it would at least knock Alice down from her position atop the clock tower. Hey, I have a question. As always, there was one guy who spoiled the deadly tension pulling Aoko out of serial killer mood. Now is not the time. How about you GTFO, find a place to hide, and let her deal with the problem. Again. Sojiro had been looking back and forth between Aoko and Alice in confusion. What's going on now? Oh my god. Somebody get this boy some help. He has no idea what's going on. But yet he clearly can't grasp the concept of your life is in danger. Get out! You know, there's lovable and then there's being an idiot. And you fall into the latter of the two. He said it like he might ask for directions to the train station. Normally she would have lashed out in response, but his deadly serious tone shocked rather than angered her. Unbelievable. This is my life now. Aoko swallowed back a sigh and returned her focus to activating her crest. Negotiations have broken down. I pissed her off a bit too much. From her perspective, this is a good chance to kill me off, along with the entire theme park, I guess. Sojiro tilted his head as if begging for a simpler explanation. Here's an idea. Run! She's really got it in for me. I can't even imagine that sort of death she has in store if she catches me. What I'm saying is neither of us are getting out of alive unless we do something about her. So, you're saying I got dragged into your quarrel? No! This man has no idea what's going on and can't even seem to piece together 2 and 2. Don't sugarcoat it! Don't sugarcoat this! Pretty much. As Sojiro protested to it in a tone wholly inappropriate to the situation, Aoko let out another blast. from her right arm. She was not aiming at Sojiro, though. A little earlier in the day, Aoko would have been happy to do exactly that, but now her attention was focused on the girl in black atop the clock tower. Kaboom. Kaboom. Aoka's mind struggled to catch up to her astonishment. She had fired the strongest, fastest magic bullet she had the ability to conjure, and Alice blocked it. That much was to be expected. When Alice set her mind to defending herself, such an attack was child's play. But what had just happened? Something Aoko had never seen before leapt into Alice's defense. A team of horses? A plague of locusts? No, those existed in the real world, unlike what Aoko had just witnessed. Normal creatures could not form like a spontaneous cloud of fog and then dissipate just as quickly into the night sky. She's using the world around her to her advantage. Impossible things moved in impossible ways. Alice was not even supplying them with any power source. Those things never needed power in the first place. These broken and discarded things did not follow the rules of mankind. They're puppets! They are puppets, and holy... This was an invasion of fairy tales. Jigsaw's fairy tale, maybe? Or maybe Sid. Why is the horse's head on top of the train? What the heck happened? Compared to them, the automaton looked merciful. Autonomous puppets were products of magecraft, but even then they had to behave as puppets should. These newly animated things, however, were nothing of the sort. Yeah, they raise more questions than answers. What the hell? Empty vessels became living creatures. Dummies warped into malformed beings. There was a fog so dense the magical energy is visibly spread to all corners of the park. And I grow more and more concerned about what the hell is going on, bringing with its monstrous welcome party that easily numbered over 1,000. Spurred by the shuddering sensation running down her spine, Aoko fired a barrage of single-action magic bullets. And they got turned into balloons? Her impulsive attack scattered futilely. The knights of the merry-go-round soared into the sky. Green, fire-breathing lizards flocked. The bakeries opened their doors once again, and human-sized loaves, fresh bread marched from their ovens as platoons of newly baked soldiers. Azaki, behind you! Aoko and Sojiro were completely surrounded. The Ferris wheel creaked as it gently turned. A rickety train car raced from about the roller coaster tracks, with kitsy tears streaming down her face broad. It was a grossly twisted fantasy. Maybe out of grim fairy tales, maybe, but this is not a fantasy. This is a nightmare. Just brought to life. No wonder this place was shut down. It tried to appease to the wrong market. The girl in black reigned over this insanity-filled park. That is the best description ever of this place. Oh, now we're screwed. Aoko was transfixed by the scene unfolding around her. Then she realized what was happening. Oh, I know what this is. Alice had once told her Meinster's familiars. Among them were 3 of particular notoriety, one of which she recalled being capable of something similar to this. It was called Ploy Kickshaw, Flat Snark. Seriously, Aozaki, behind you! Struck by Aoko's bullets, the creatures exploded into sprinters. It was clear Aoko's shots were becoming more and more powerful, but it was also the case that these beings were less robust than your average automata. Shizuki! This way! Aoko turned away from the clock tower, grabbed his hand, and began to run. Wait! Aozaki! Sorry, no time! We're running! Running to where? It doesn't matter. Anywhere! She shouted as though to persuade herself as she valiantly cleared a path. Aoko's magic bullets flew like a scream, blowing away the creatures that blocked or simply gathered around in their path. She made a hole for them to escape through. Magical bullets exploded like blue fireworks. Aoko and Sojiro ran down the bumpy brick road. Their bond forged, and the heat of battle went far beyond mutual convenience. They headed for the park's exit at full speed without exchanging a word or a look. The weirdness only extended as far as the park border, so they would be safe as long as they made it outside. But, speaking in pure numbers, the difference in strength was 2 versus an army, or rather 1 versus an army. Sojiro is hardly useful in this situation, and manpower. Yeah, man's belongs in all the air quotes. Can we add like another 3 just right there to the man? Wasn't really the issue here, since they were facing puppets. You okay? Those were some giant pinchers back there. Aoko shouted as she blasted away the monsters that stood in their path. There was no time to stop for breathing and even look back. Yeah, just barely. As Sojiro pursued, his voice, too, had naturally become shrill. 5 minutes earlier, they had broken out of the siege of the plaza surprisingly fast. It seemed that the residents awakened deferred case by case, with large creatures taking additional time. We're lucky they're not the morning type. Aoko joked as she mowed down the small fry that popped up. But then, without warning, something outrageous extended its way down from above them. It was a claw of the 60-foot lobster adorning the roof of a seafood restaurant. Its pincers were like a guillotine, and as Aoko and Sojiro cut across the front of the restaurant, the Red King pressed its tremendous speed, keen on splitting them each in 2. Shizuki, hard about! This way's no good! The gate was on the other side of the restaurant, but they had to take the long way around in order to lose giant lobsters snapping at their heels. Waiting along their detour had been a horde of monsters too many to count. Yeah, just barely. Sojiro called out in response, recalling just how narrowly he had avoided his head being severed clean from his body. In front of us, what the heck are those? Are those freshly baked? It looks like it. In other words, they're cannon fodder. Aoko halted her sprint and set her crest into full operation. Range 7, 6, 5 yards. At this distance, snap, take them down. Sliding along the brick path, she brandished her right arm. She loosened a shower of magic bullets. Snap was a single action spell that favored rate of fire over power, and it mowed down the monsters with satisfying pops. Azaki, we're over there. Roger that. She's just gonna machine gun for an arm. Just that's what's going on. Just mow down everything. Blue explosions bloomed along the lamp-lit promenade. Aoko's current of fire fanned out. It was a marvelous star mine fireworks show. The toy bread men turned it into charcoal. We can do this. They've got us overpowered in numbers, but at this rate, we'll be able to get out of here. Shizuki, how's it look over there? Looks clear. We should be able to approach the exit from the east. With a magical barrage that would leave an average spellcaster blue in the face, the novice mage broke through the siege. Meanwhile, a single bird keenly watched everything unfold. Tweet, tweet. Chirp, cheep, 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 chirp. The moment the blue bird descended into the master field of visions, it made its high-pitched call. The girl listened expressionless to the report. No matter. Everything's going as expected. Even if she only knows how to shoot and destroy, the way Aoko uses magical energy is extraordinary. Hastily formed familiars are no match for her. Robin flapped its wings as it tweeted in response. Perhaps it was criticizing Alice for complimenting Aoko, or perhaps it was jealous of Aoko for being praised by Alice. Alice could barely make sense of its chirping rant. Aoko Ozaki was a novice mage. Until just 2 years ago, she had grown up with no background in magecraft. Compared to Alice, who was raised as a witch from birth, Aoko possessed far less talent and experience. There was simply no comparison to be made. In a contest of skills in magecraft, 10 times out of 10, Alice would be declared the victor. However, that narrative changed when it came to a battle of life and death. Alice Kuonji was not the type of mage suited for combat, while Aoko Aozaki, on the other hand, was built for it. In a contest that pitted magical energy against magical energy, even Alice would concede that Aoko had the upper hand. Aoko's manipulation of magical energy was extraordinary. The scale of her magic circuits were smaller than that of Alice, but their rotational speed, durability, and output quality, not to mention efficiency, were otherworldly. You're just gonna sit here and praise your opponent? Is that what's gonna happen? Because that's what you're doing. At least you have the dignity to praise your opponent. That was Aoko Aozaki's hallmark. Seriously, try saying her name 3 times fast. Aoko Aozaki, Aoko Aozaki, Aoko Aozaki. That double owl really gets my mind just jumbled. Though she had many failings when handling sophisticated formula, in just 2 years of practice, Aoko had surpassed Alice in simple formula that merely required an energy input. She also had a genius instincts and adaptability. Though Aoko was not particularly proficient at executing magecraft, she was terrifyingly fast. If she had been born outside the Aozaki clan, she would have doubtless risen to fame as a competitive sharpshooter. What a pity. In a straight shootout, Alice did not stand a chance. Alice Kuonji had never bothered to learn primitive magecraft like magic bullets in the first place. She was a classic puppeteer. Her familiar served as her arms and legs to carry out all the particulars of a battle. Clock's ticking, Aoko. I'm happy to lend you all the ammunition you like, but after an hour those bullets will be worthless. Chirping as if in agreement, the robin took flight. It had been nearly 10 minutes since Alice had been made the amusement park into her dominion. To what would a green fog give birth next? Aoko and Sojiro, still running about, would soon come to understand the gravity of their situation. What happens in an hour? She's just toying with her opponents now at this point. She's just playing with them. They're just puppets to her at this point. She doesn't care. Shizuki, is this the way out? Yeah, the exit is just around the store. Running non-stop at full speed had them at their limits. Their breath ragged and duo rounded the corner at a breakneck pace. Amusement park, though, this was still the infamous Kitsy Land. It would have taken a high school student 20 minutes to sprint the entire circumference of the park. And though they were not intimately familiar with the park's geography, we just need to stop and pay attention to his face just real quick. It's like he just ate a lemon. And he's like, just absolutely soured out. Because he's in such shock of what he's looking at. And meanwhile, Aozaki is just so annoyed. It was changing beyond recognition. The transformation was not limited to the park's residents either. Aozaki. What? I hate to ask, but is it just me, or is the park getting bigger? It was. The problem wasn't as mundane as mistaking the location of the exits, nor the strange terrain, nor was the park, No, the park was warping and twisting in upon itself. Even as they ran, its structure was expanding and growing, like that of a living creature. Soon the pair noticed that the mob encircling them had grown even stronger. Entrusting her back to Sojiro, Aoko summoned all of her effort just to keep from winning. No one would blame Sojiro for cowering in shock, but for Aoko to do the same, she bore responsibility for causing and then dragging him into this mess. She could not afford to succumb to panic. Pull yourself together, Aoko. The park has to end somewhere. It may be far, but the fence is right there. Even Flat Snark has limits. Getting to the exit is the right choice, I think. But from here, it looks the better part of a mile away. Up until now, they had been too concerned with simply running. Their breathing had become labored. If they had run another mile without rest, they'd end up collapsing along the way. Azaki, how are you holding up? Physically, I mean. Huh? What? The whisper from behind pulled Aoko back to reality. I'm fine, but I need to catch my breath. Good idea. We'll never make it outside if we don't rest. You know, I would never have thought you'd be okay with making a run for it. She let slip a giggle, far from deliberate. Debilitated by panic, her comrade in arms had been analyzing the situation and forming an escape plan. Why don't you hold up in one of those buildings for a while? I don't like the sound of it, but it's your best option for now. The breadmen had them completely surrounded. Perhaps they might have been a problem for an average person, but for Aoko, breaking through their formation to get to a building would be a cinch. The issue was which store to pick. She considered the characteristics of transforming park. What would pose a danger and what was safe. The most important factor was not the strength or the complexity of the building. Keep it simple. Kiss! Kiss! Keep it simple, stupid. We need to remember this, people. Keep it simple, stupid. Shizuki, this way. After routing the monsters, Aoko hopped behind the counter, which soon followed by Sojiro. Get behind the counter. Like she was in the Western shootout, Aoko squared off against the monsters using the counter as cover. His expression was great. Bingo. Nothing in here can get snarkified. Snarkified? You really should have chosen a better word for that, because that is not the word you were looking for. I don't care what it is, but that is not the word you're looking for. After assessing the current state of the enemy, Aoko sat down under the counter. What are they doing? They're stamping their feet in frustration because they're angry that they can't get in. Mm-hmm. Aoko gave the perplexed Sojiro a grin and took a moment to catch her breath. She heaved a heavy sigh of relief and fatigue. We'll take a break here. This restaurant is the blandest place in the park, which makes their Achilles heel. The registers and utensils are all modern, and there are no mascot characters. It's just a bit too civilized for Snark to mess with. Snark? That's their name, though Alice is the one who came up with it. I think it doesn't really sound like her, but whatever. That's what they're called. Perhaps that was easy from knowing that they were safe. Sojiro seemed enthralled in her explanation. Aoko could not help but chuckle as Sojiro nodded sagely. It was certain that he had no idea what she was talking about. I mean, this dude has had no idea what was going on since the very beginning. That's like his entire MO is just... I have no idea what's going on. You're going to have to dumb it down and explain to me like I'm 5. Normally this would have irritated her, but this time she was grateful for the warmth of the strange sobriety. It's good to see you seem better, Aozaki. Mistaking her smile for composure, Sojiro broke into a smile himself. It was just another link in the chain of misunderstandings, but there was no need to readdress it. Oh, you can tell? Yeah, my magic bullets are getting more powerful. Well, you did chase me all around the House of Mirrors while firing those things at me, so I guess I've become really familiar with them, for better or worse. No, there is no better. It's just only gets worse. It's only just downhill. Like, even Sisyphus is going, damn, son! Are you sure you're okay, though? I remember you mentioning that you had a limited number of shots, but you're fired at least 20 or 30 so far. You know, every now and then you... Her opinion of him improved just a little bit. He continues to shock her. Never mind. My bullets increase in power is a simple matter of the density of their magical energy. You've seen the fog around the park from a bit ago, right? It's all just magical energy. Think of it as fuel for my bullets. Magical energy was divided into 2 broad categories. First was odd, produced inside the mage's body. Second was mana, which filled the atmosphere. At the moment, the amusement park had turned into a fairy tale land overflowing with mana. Although it meant nothing to the average person, to a mage, it was a paradise where spells could be cast as much as one pleased. Could you just, I don't know, drain the world of the mana real quick by just firing a fuck ton of magic? So, that means you don't have to worry about how much magic whatever you have left in. All we need to worry about are injuries and stamina. Well, as far as our own lives are concerned, yeah. Sojiro breathed a sigh of relief. From Sojiro's perspective, more than that, and the monster she mowed down, Aoko was the biggest bully on the playground. She had been concerned about what would happen should her magical energy be exhausted, but lucky for him, she was far from surrendering her crown. It's nice that you trust me and all, but let's get ahead of ourselves. Those minions out there are just walking garbage. If Alice summons any other fairy tale monsters, let alone the actual Snark making an appearance, there's nothing I'll be able to do. Other fairy tale monsters? You mean there are others apart from the thing that changed from the bark? Yes, they're called ploy kickshaws. Aberrations that even we mages can't stand to look at. They're nonsense lost to time, used to revive impossible fantasies. Sojiro's expression seemed to be calling her out on the hypocrisy. Hey, most of us have modern standards, you know. Obviously there are things we can't do, and we're no match for modern weapons. The 20th century, well, a bunch of wars helped the weapons technology catch up to us. But that girl is different. Altogether, mankind's evolution can't hold a flame to her power. Take those red men, for instance. Something like that machine gun would have no effect on them, probably because guns make no sense to them. Aoko casually gestured past the counter. Alice's familiars are mystics needed from fantasies. They're all impossible in the first place, so they don't play nice with the laws of physics. That shouldn't come as a surprise, since fantasy and reality can't exist together. I see. So they're literally walking loaves of bread. Which makes them dinner! They are dinner. Sojiro seemed to have ignored the majority of Aoko's explanation and only reacted to the part that caught his curiosity. To get back on topic, modern arms don't stand a chance against those things. Even rockets would be useless. They aren't part of the same order or shared consciousness as us. To the poi kickshaws of fairy tale monsters, anything that doesn't exist in their world, anything that doesn't understand, disintegrates before it can even touch them. Only something equally nonsense can touch them, like magical energy infused with the same level of mystics. They exist wholly in their own conceptual space or cosmos. In short, they're protected by a special rule known as folklore defense, meaning that neither pure force nor strong magecraft have much effect. They can't be taken down without exploiting the weaknesses found in the original stories. How to make a world not need guns makes sense. Take notes, Harry Potter. Harry Potter could have been solved by a gun. This cannot be solved by a gun because it doesn't fucking work! Guns do jack and or shit to these things. Are you familiar with the Greek myth of Achilles? It's a good straightforward example. Sojiro shook his head. Somebody help this man right now. You better damn well explain it, because this boy needs to know. Of course you aren't. If we get out of this alive, have Tobimaro tell you about it. It's cliche, but it's a good story. Well, at least her priorities are still in order. Sojiro was feeling pretty lost, but he did get his best to grasp the situation. He thought that ploy kickshaws were scary enough to chase Aoko, and that puppet from before out of the house was barefoot. Certainly the scene before them was the stuff of nightmares. Nightmares is putting it gently, but Sojiro had a different way of thinking. I think you're more scared than me, Aozaki. Do you want to die? I can't tell if that was just a question or a threat. Because she's holding, like, her bullets ready to fire. It's like, do you want to die? Or, do you want to die? Like, I don't know which is which right here. And it's wonderful, because either way it makes so much sense for her. Sojiro waved in protest, silently pointing out that she had made his case for him. Listen to me. The things surrounding us now are a little more than fodder. As far as Alice is concerned, the bread min, the lobster, the meat mincer at the sausage place, they're all worth even less than my magic bullets are to me. Got it? The moving mascots, all the rest are sideshow. They're nothing more than the breath of the monster she unleashed. These things are just the breath? Yeah, crazy, I know. But that's why we're dealing with it right now. Just one of those fairy tale monsters is enough to keep us busy. So if Alice decides to add another, we might as well give up. Add another? Isn't there some sort of limit? If she decides not to be stingy, she had a few more up her sleeve, though, well, there are conditions to bring them out. Like, one monster won't wake up if there's no river nearby. The park has fountains, sure, but no river, right? Her familiars are bound by their underlying stories. By fairy tale, you mean like the one about the bowl of soba noodles? Let me tell you, it's a small mercy there is no river nearby. Otherwise, something way better as squishing us would have appeared by now. Aoko continued, completely ignoring Sojiro. Anyway, as I was saying, the foundation of Alice's magecraft is Mother Goose. Right? You wouldn't know that either. Mother Goose is an author of whimsical English nursery rhymes. To be honest, this type of ploy kickshaws isn't all that scary. Taking them down from some form of magecraft is totally possible. I'm afraid to ask, but what about the scary kind then? They follow another fairy tale inspired by Mother Goose. Alice's mother was particularly fond of it, and every single one is bizarre. No mage wants to go up against those things. As it happens, that's exactly what brought the park back to life. I'm pretty sure the one she calls Flat Snark, though I wasn't particularly paying attention, so I'm a little hazy on the details. Sojiro swallowed the discomfort making its way up his throat. He really wanted her to explain things a little less vaguely, but something she had just said necessitated further investigation. Wait a second, Aozaki. You mean to tell me you weren't paying attention? Well, you know, It was a while back that she explained it all to me, and I didn't really believe anything she had to say around then. I thought that maybe she was talking up her own magecraft to a newbie, or that she wasn't taking me seriously. In truth, if anyone hadn't taken the lesson seriously, it was Aoko. Little Miss Perfect didn't take a lesson seriously. She would learn that lesson firsthand soon enough. But she experienced just how real Alice's monsters were. She also discovered how heretical the Minster witches truly were in the world of magecraft. Can you remember anything else about them? From what I understand, it's a ploy that puts up a powerful bounded field. Alice inherited a lot of ploys, but this one is one of her finest. It takes discarded and forgotten things and resurrects them like what happened in fairy tales. Supposedly nobody ever defeated it. Oh, and its nickname is the Untouchable. So it's not Flat Snark, or whatever it was? That's just a nickname too. Since nobody knows what its real form is, they picked a few names along the way. One of them is Flat Snark, and it ranks high among her other nonsense in terms of how little is known about it. Have you heard of the book The Hunting of the Snark by Lewis Carroll? No. And who is Louise Carrell? Okay then, let's start from the beginning. Professor Dodgson was, he was a delusional gentleman with a peculiar disposition. Not that it matters right now, it's a waste of time to explain to some people. What's important is the work he left behind. The Hunting of the Snark is a book about a band of adventurers who tried to capture an unidentified monster known as a Snark. It's a fairy carol, satirical, nonsensical, and cryptic. Doesn't even really have an ending either. Though the party does ultimately find the Snark on its island after much hardship. It ends with the protagonist who found it, the baker, suddenly disappearing. It's a satire about people who run about busily trying to find something they don't understand. But when it comes to the park here, it's pretty clear who the baker is and who the Snark is, right? Aoko elected not to share this, but Flat Snark had other popular names as well. The enigmatic island, the five-dimensional plane. These names were not given to it by Alice, but rather muttered by mages whom the Minsters defeated. In mathematics, snark is a term used in a graph theory to refer to contradictory or impossible planar graphs. A plane proven to be unable to exist in this world was given the name apt for an ill-fated existence paradoxical in nature. The fairy tale monster ascribed this name was said to hold no form discoverable by man. Aoko also declined to mention something else. Flat Snark was a fairy tale monster that could grow. It would hide somewhere in the amusement park, continuously exhaling magical energy until the park completely transformed into a fantasy land. So you gotta find Snark and kill it before it gets too powerful. Well, it's not that there's any point in scaring him. Did you say something, Alazaki? Nope. I was just thinking, Flat Snark's powerful is its ability to bring fairy tale worlds to life. When you think about it, the park makes a perfect backdrop. I mean, it was originally a playground based on fairy tales anyways. If this had been a business district, for example, Flat Snark would have posed far less of a threat. At most, its power would be limited to projecting the shadow of a dinosaur onto a building's window panes. Ah, so that's why it's safe. Sojiro realized something that was wrong when he noticed a gluttonous liquid dripping onto his back. Dude, it's not sour! Wrong facial expression! That is the wrong facial expression for that. He looked up at the ceiling. Their eyes met. Before he had a chance to think, Sojiro hopped up from the floor. Aozaki, get out, now! Taking the initiative, he jumped up from behind the counter. Are you mad? What do you think you're... Trying to stop him from committing an act of suicide, she also came to her feet. Immediately, she noticed something coming to life overhead. What the... Oh, crap! Yabai! Oh my god, that was close. Their gargantuan mouth clamped shut. With no mascot to speak of, the burger joint itself became began to transform into one giant monster. Who the hell paints a giant clown on the ceiling? Shouldn't they have flexed their creative muscles somehow else? It's like the clowns... If they liked clowns that much, why didn't they put it at the entrance? Aoko aired out her grievance as she ran. There was no safe haven left. Moment by moment, the last remnants of civilization were being eroded away by fairy tales. Dragon! Great, now we got a dragon hunting us. This just gets worse and worse every second. The amusement park had reached its final stage of snarkification. Again, that is not the word you're looking for. Why is that the choice of words you went with? Because that is not the term you were looking for. You could have picked anything else and that is not it. It was not just the mascot characters that had been granted life. Like the burger joint, even the buildings began to transform. The roller coaster that made its way about the park writhed and twisted like a Chinese dragon. Aoko and Sojiro stared dumbfounded by the Ferris wheel, which had grown to over 250 feet in height. Hordes of breadmen closed in on them as if to offer tickets. I'm telling you, the line is under control. Mobs of trinkets, actually kickshaws, rampaged to the park. Whenever a hole was punched in the envelopment, it was instantly filled. It was a battlefield of attrition with no end in sight. But that was a matter of course, as there were a few fairy tales with about limited resources. This is hopeless. They just keep coming. Look for the Snark's real form. A fairy tale monster always has some vessel for its body. If we can just destroy that, we should be able to get out of here. It should look out of place. A body? What kind of body? I already told you. Fairy tale monsters can't exist in reality. Anything weird or impossible you've never seen before. It's going to be it. Something weird or impossible? I need an example. Do I have to spell it out for you? Living puppets, flying go-karts. Aoko paused her firing for a moment. After saying this out loud, she realized just how deep her grave was dug. The amusement park was a treasure trove of fairy tale-esque creatures on any given day. Who could say what was impossible amidst the newly transfigured knickknacks running around? Damn, everything in here is weird. So it's hiding in plain sight. Hoping that she was wrong, Aoko bit her bottom lip. Flat Snark was a type of ploy that deployed bounded fields. Seeing as if it was commanding so many familiars, it would be unusual for its main body to have little or even no defenses. Furthermore, it was modeled from a story about being untouchable and unidentifiable. It would be logical to assume it would collapse in on itself shortly after being discovered. Which means, we find it, we win. Would something so fragile hide among the minions? They do say that the best place to hide a leaf is in the woods. This was closer to the truth than Aoko realized. As long as there was the slightest possibility of it being hit by one of Aoko's stray bullets, it would not dare appear in front of them. His true form was orchestrating the park from somewhere else safe. I'm sure we've seen it already. It's the subject of a book named after it. If it's not standing out on every page, it has no right to be the title character. But where? Put very simply, the Ferris wheel was the safest location in the park as well as a symbol of the past glory, perhaps. What if we try to catch her instead? Her eyes opened wide at a sudden suggestion. While Aoko had been trying to come up with a plan to overcome this stalemate, it seemed Sojiro had been racking his brain as well. His proposal was a simple one. If they could not find Snark, they needed to take out its master, Alice. Alice had not moved at all from the clock tower. Even from here, they could make out her figure draped in the moonlight. That's the worst move we can make. Even if we killed her, it wouldn't stop Snark. And all the absurdity would just boil over to outside the park. Not to mention, I can't even kill her in the first place. At best, I can only get halfway there. Breaded Man, angered at the insults hurled toward his master, moved to attack it and was mercilessly burned to a crisp. The two stood back to back, catching their breath. With no plan to speak of and no route of escape, they had reached rock bottom. Meanwhile, the oddities were forming a circle around their prey as if they smelled blood in the water. Were they to be dragged to a bakery for the oven, minced with the meat grinder at the butcher shop, skewered and parted around top the carousel, walked the plank to the thorny pirate ship? After 2 years of slumber, they were eager to welcome their new guests. There's something I need to ask you, Aozaki. What is it? Keep it snappy. I'm thinking here. Okay, it's painfully clear that these things want to do to us. But what about her? Does she enjoy this? I doubt it. These things' hatred of humans comes from deep-seated grudge within the park itself. Maybe even Flat Snark's personality too. Alex's familiars are one big family of freaks. Though, now that you mention it, Aoko was unable to deny that there were some similarities. Good to know. So, did you come up with anything, Aozaki? How do we stop them? Sorry to get your hopes up, but I'm all out of ideas. Oh, but I bet it's stop if you dropped dead. No, thank you. Let's just get out of here. Hey, wait, Shizuki! She blinked in surprise with a sudden turn of movements. Sojiro had not until now been meekly following her lead and had grabbed Aoko's hand, pulled her with him to head charge of the swarm of red in an attempt to break through the encirclement. Are you out of your mind? How on earth do you figure that this is what we do next? Aoko nonetheless followed Sojiro's uncharacteristically gung-ho lead, cursing him all the while. Alone, he had no chance of breaking through the surrounding wall of enemies with brute force. Aoko regained her bearings and let fly a spray of magic bullets ahead of Sojiro. They burst through the net and ran as hard as they could. At this point, all was left to do was what they had planned from the outset: get out of the park, before addressing what needed to be addressed. Where the hell did that come from? Hadn't you already given up back at the House of Mirrors? Aoko could not begin to comprehend Sojiro's reaction. That was then, and this is now. Just run! He's got a point. It's been like an hour at this point. What the hell are you talking about? Alice wants to kill you for the exact same reasons I did. This won't play out any differently. Though she wondered what was getting her so worked up, Aoko did not stop. She told herself the degree of Sojiro's stupidity charged the bread men so recklessly had caused her to lose her cool. Hey, don't get the wrong idea. I'm gonna try and kill you again tomorrow. I'll really do it. So if you don't want to die, you should try to escape. Should be trying to escape me too, got it? Then we'll talk about that tomorrow. I don't really care if you kill me, but just don't don't want to be killed by that girl. Like I said, why the hell not? I don't even know what she looks like, nor have I ever spoken to her. Huh? It was like someone had doused water over her blazing fury. Aoko's anger was snuffed out by the absurd simplicity of his reason. It is 100% absurd. It's the dumbest reason possible. Because you don't know what she looks like? Could it be that Sojiro did not mind being killed by someone as long as he had met them? Aoko grimaced as she followed him. His priorities are not in order. They're just not in the right order. From her spot atop the clock tower, the girl observed the growth of her familiar, Flat Snark, a savior of the discarded. It was a vile, vulgar fairy tale monster who provided those abandoned by fate with a glimmer of hope before snatching it away. Alice had it under her control, but she's still keen to keep Snark from expressing its bad habits. After completing a lap around the park that had now reached the size of an entire town, the Robin made a situation report. So, they're trying to get out. It seemed Aoko was prioritizing the safety of the boy, even if it resulted in wasting an entire day choosing to capitulate on a decision was very much like her. That's too bad. I was sure Aoko would attempt to burn down the clock tower with me. And me with it. The bluebird cheeped in response. Was it denying the master's portrait of Aoko? I'm caught on something and I don't know what. Or agreeing that it was Aoko's style to do exactly that. An outsider might interpret its interjection either way. Does this bore you? The robin jumped at being addressed so unexpectedly. It chirped and flapped its wing like a flustered servant, frantic to say otherwise. It's rare for us to get along so well. Okay then, if it's a game she wants, a game she'll get. Let's liven things up a bit, shall we? Calmly she pulled a small object from her pocket. It was a dark gray Easter egg emanating from inside. It was the ticking of a clock. The robin knew it to be a ploy kickshaw with a bad attitude, far exceeding Flat Snark's known to be among the best in one-on-one situations. Go. I've set the extolling time for 20 minutes. Break in that subtle way of yours, and together with the witch's breath, the egg filled with praise and disappeared. Suddenly a strong wind swept through the park. The words, "I could not have killed them all by myself," floated through the air. It was the disappointment of something enormous that was visible to all, yet overlooked. Aoko and Sojiro continued their dash towards the boundary separating the park from the outside. They just cannot seem to get out. The Kurio horde that stood in their way had reduced in number. The iron fence that separated the two from the outside world was just over 300 yards away. Fortunately, there was no particularly large buildings barring their path. If the Ferris wheel had stood in their way, that would have spelled the end, but thankfully it had not yet reached its full strength. The only thing that appeared before them were meek oddities that could easily be handled by Aoko's simple magecraft. At this rate, we might she would have said, make it to the fence if her lungs would allow it. Since Aoko was utilizing the ample mana filling the park, her tank of magical energy was nearly full. Moreover, the condition of her body's circuits were steadily improving to the extent that she would be able to unleash at least one all-out onslaught. Until something unusual was hovering above her field of vision. It was locked on Sojiro, hovering 10 feet above him over to one side. Shizuki, look. What is that thing? It's been on us for a while. Sojiro had seemingly noticed it before Aoko hints his previous awkward glances towards the sky. In truth, it would have been stranger for him not to notice, as the thing was practically glued to him. In terms of its size, the floating object measured about 3 feet in diameter. Tiles covered the exterior, but which a multitude of spinning light danced about. Is that an egg? Sojiro asked, not really sure what to call it. An egg? If it's an egg, then that means it'll crack. And you don't want to know what's inside. Her bullets bounced off it like it was made of rubber. That trait, the ability to deflect all outside interference, confirmed to Aoko that this thing was undoubtedly a ploy kickshaw. Knew it. I can't break its rules from the outside. Shizuki, don't take your eyes off it even for a second. No matter what happens, keep your eyes locked on it, even if it's just the corner of your vision. Oh, okay. Aoko picked up her pace and she barked orders. The Eggman who sat on the wall, he would crack, just as the tale spoke of. Nothing anyone could do or say would cause him to fall. But the moment they stopped looking, he would tumble down and break into pieces. Humpty Dumpty! All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put him back together again, or so it said. It It was the Mother Goose poem Humpty Dumpty. If Sojiro was its target, then the moment he averted his gaze, it would tumble and explode. Except for its exploding part, who knows what will happen when it falls. Either way, it was going to scatter something troublesome when it fell. Its oval shape, the keyhole adorning the front, writing inscribed upon it, they all made her anxious. If it was an egg, that meant it was going to hatch at some point. Even if he continued to stare once the time came from whatever was inside to come out, they would have even less ability to conserve their energy. Azaki, slow down, would you? If you use up all your energy now, you'll... Forget about it. Just focus on watching that egg. At this critical juncture, Brenman stepped out to join the egg and block their path. Out of the way! The Breadmen were marching forth in a grand battalion. At her level of firepower, Aoko should have easily mowed them down. However, these have hard crusts. Take this! If Snap failed to do the job, that meant it was time for her to put her crest to use. Draw a formula-triggered bullet encased in a full wind jacket. If her previous shots were the equivalent of a machine gun volley, then this was her artillery shot. The hard crust bread had absorbed her snap without a dent, scattered into 1,000 tiny pieces of her jaw's torrent. Whew. I'm with him. Whoa. Of course, the destruction did not end with just the Breadmen. What had been a brick road was now thoroughly stripped of its pavement. The nearby soils had been warped into twisted steel skeletons. And where's the egg? Why are we not watching the egg? It was a spectacle that made Sojiro question what was the greater obstacle to their escape was, the wall of Breadmen or Aoko's ability to lay waste to these. Hey, don't wander off. It's dangerous if you don't sit close to me. Come on, get closer. We're out of strikes, you know. If they surround you, you're a goner. You should know hostages don't mean squat to me. And it's not like I can pick out my targets precisely anyways. This made sense to Sojiro. He had not fully appreciated the part about hostages, but he got the gist of. So, basically, I'm in danger no matter where I stand. You... Offended though she was by his typical naive response, she could not help but be impressed. Sojiro was a straight arrow through and through. His eyes stayed firmly focused on the egg overhead, even amidst the chaos of the melee unfolding before him. I don't know why I worried. You may not be the sharpest tool, but you sure are good at following orders. One thing, Aozaki, am I imagining it, or do those Breadmen seem tougher than before? No, you weren't imagining that. They're getting stronger. You must have nailed down their mass production process, so they turned their attention to upping the quality. As you figured already, they're just going to get tougher as we go. It seems as though those bread guys have started to develop individuality. I hate to think about it, but they might start spreading themselves with jelly, or wearing other fillings and merging with one another. Though she was joking, her eyes were dead serious. Sojiro shuddered as the thought of the situation growing even more dire. So, you're saying that those guys are going to become as terrifying as the puppet from the House of Mirrors soon? Of course, you can count on it. I'll have my hands full with bread that Rare say Shizuki. Think you can handle yourself against one of those? Sojiro shook his head with a look of complete aversion upon his face. I didn't think so. So let's get moving. We can't afford to hang around here. Aoko took a quick deep breath and began to sprint once again. Far in the distance through the fog, the iron fence waited 300 paces away. Where's the egg? Did we forget about the egg? As long as nothing happened, they would make it there in one piece. Sojiro followed after Aoko, holding on to that all-too-convenient hope. But hope was something ever fleeting. In fact, it lasted not even 300 yards. The edge of the amusement park may well have been the edge of the world. Whew. I need to breathe for a moment. There is a whole lot of reading. Dozens of undulating horizons could be seen crowding the sky like a giant cloud of thick curtain, or perhaps groaning lips. It was the end of the road, the outer limit of the outrageous, fantastical realm, and yet Aoko found it to be much like the last page of an enormous picture book. There is no end in sight. You guys gotta solve every answer you've come up with, you have failed miserably. The sight turned her mind blank, and well, this is about as bad as it gets, she thought. The Snark, the island of despair, had at least brought Aoko to her knees as she started at the swelling border. The park indeed had an end. Even now, as Aoko and Sojiro had expected, the fence divided the amusement park from the residential area neighboring it. It had both doubled it in height and made it sturdier. Another hurdle she had foreseen before even laying eyes on it. Expecting it to have been snarkified, Aoko had come prepared to demolish an obstacle or two. But this construction before her went far beyond the mere wall. It was an ocean that separated the underworld from the mortal one. The iron fence was like a restless, surging sea. One or two walls could easily be toppled. Every 10 or 20 could be dealt with one way or another. Between the power left in her body and that which filled the park, putting on a brave front within her power, she could fully mobilize her circuits and her crest to the point of burnout in a last-ditch effort, like some reenactment of the parting of the Red Sea. But then that would be it. Even if a path could be opened, she would not have enough energy left to walk it, and it was obvious what would become of her afterward. The residents would hardly forgive her for wreaking such a havoc around their park. Like ants drawn to honey, they would swarm to the helpless girl and tear her to pieces. Despondent and exhausted, she felt a faint sting of remorse. Escaping the park, looking back on how they had gotten here, Aoko recognized that her choices had been her undoing. Under the golden full moon, beams of steel bent emerged like wireframe sculptures. It was only a matter of time before the amusement park itself became one colossal monster. The horde of familiars gathering the plaza where Alice had formed an impenetrable blockade around her. Just above the head of the boy beside her whispered an egg called Scratch Dumpty, continuing to shuffle what appeared on the surface. Azaki. Shizuki. The boy's voice snapped Aoko out of her trance, if only for a moment. The stark reality of the situation quickly dawned on the novice mage. The sheer hopelessness of it all as it ripped out and snatched away any will she had to reset. Let's head to the gate. It's hopeless here, but we might have a chance at the entrance. That flat snark thing, you said it has its own set of rules to follow, right? Then we need to think about the basics. The fence would have been impassable from the start. The gate might still work as an entrance and exit. Sojiro had not given in to panic. Aoko found herself honestly admiring Sojiro's ability to analyze Snark's characteristics given the circumstances. Okay. Now calm, she steeled her resolve. You're right, the gate is a good option, but just getting there will be a challenge. Even the weakest enemies, those loaves, are becoming hard to deal with. Plus, the best of her familiars are just going to keep gathering at the plaza and the entrance. I mean, the gate itself might be a monster, even worse than the Ferris wheel. It's designed to look like a giant kitsy. So you're not going to the front gate? Nah, we'd have a better chance over there. Aoko took another glance at the undulating iron fences. It was too late to achieve goal for making it out alive. In that case, she decided to prioritize the other promise she had made. I'm gonna go ahead and break down the fences here. You have to escape once you see an opening. Then, my job will be done. Though her words were few, her tone told the whole story. She was telling him to escape by himself. It's not possible. You can't destroy them by yourself, Aozaki. If I were by myself, you'd be right. But right now, the park is actually helping me. With this much fuel, all I need to do is aim and pull the trigger. One good blast should be enough. That said, I'll only be able to do it once. As soon as I open a hole, I need you to run like your life depends on it. She would carve a path through the iron sea of fences, gambling on one final effort, an great incantation to launch the biggest projectile she could manage. As an outsider, Sojiro could not even begin to imagine just how much of a burden that this would be for her. All he could imagine was a hazy vision of Aoko being left behind in the park. Would that girl in black come to save her? Cruel as it was to imagine, he knew she would not. After Aoko had exhausted her very best in order to save him, that girl would not stay her hand. The only way Alice would let Aoko off the hook was if Aoko killed Sojiro as payment, and so... Get back about 50 feet. I'll take time to cast, but I'll make sure to finish this before the egg gets hard-boiled. It went without saying that this was the only path. Wait, I want to know, is there even a point in letting me go? None. Even once you get out there, there's no way you'll be able to escape Alice forever. But I'm stubborn to the very end. I said I'd protect you, so I'm damn well going to do my best to keep you alive. Surprised by her seemingly moral stance, Sojiro saw Aoko in a new light. But of course, Sojiro realized that she was not fighting for his sake, but for the sake of her pride. Right. Right, I guess you did say that. But it's not like you let me go by myself. Oh, give me a break. Just move already. Aoko eased off just a bit. She recalled how an hour ago he had gotten the better of her. Aozaki, if you're still willing to fight, then let's do it some other way. If you can destroy the monster fence, let's put your power to better use. There isn't anything else I can do. Sorry, but all I can destroy is what I can see. Dying for some forlorn hope isn't how I want to go. Don't you get it? The fact is, blowing this thing would let you slip out is all I can manage. I can't beat Flat Snark or anything else. It's the least I can do after. So you're going to run from this whole responsibility too? Aoko was just about to turn her head back on him when Sojiro clutched her hand. His words caused something inside of her to boil with rage. It was as though someone had set her heart on fire. The surprise was pricked open her true feelings, and the disappointment she felt towards herself thawed her frozen limbs. Why you? Don't get it backwards. I'm the one letting you escape, not the other way around. I'll blow this whole damn park if I feel like it. Just you watch. Okay, in that case, it'd be a waste to help me escape right now. Save that move for when you really mean it. I'll give you a hand until then. Huh? You help me? Talk about a waste of time. Now, you're really pissing me off. Just get out of here, you dimwit. What use do I have of a dunce whose special power is running himself ragged? I may be pretty exhausted, but you're in worse shape, Aozaki. Just look at yourself. You're tired and injured. Not to mention the injury to her back that Aoko had nearly forgotten about. Even now, she couldn't ignore the pain that the automaton had inflicted onto her spine. With iron will, she managed to push it out of her mindset, mostly. Even without any magecraft stuff, I'm still in better shape than you are. I could probably even carry you all the way to the entrance if I needed to. Don't make promises you can't keep. Just go. I'm used to this. You're not. This is the first step facing this sort of thing, right? So, it's okay. The fact that they were a team, the fact that she would still have to kill him after all this, none of the irony was lost on her as she said these words. It didn't matter anymore. Still, Sojiro didn't let go of her hand. He gripped it even harder. His expression was the same as ever. Aoko frowned, trying to figure out if he was upset with her. You're right. This is my first time with this sort of thing. But I've experienced my own fair share of dangers in the mountains. I've even been attacked by a deer, you know. As a city girl, she had no idea what it means to be attacked by a deer, but his determination was apparent enough. True. Looking back on it now, he had maintained his composure through it all. A normal person would barely be able to talk through such panic. Perhaps growing up in the mountains, far from civilization, had taught him how to stay calm in the face of so much. So just me, just a little. He spoke his plain, unadulterated feelings and released his hand. There was no lie in him. In fact, he was too honest, so much that she found it hard to believe him. Sojiro had no reason to go that far. As it stood, Aoko had no future. After confessing this and telling him to escape, why did this boy still offer help to a person like her? I don't understand. Why do all this? You're going to die if you stay with me. This is it. This is your last chance to think it through. You should be running. I know, but I'm not going anywhere. Sojiro answered immediately, realizing that Aoko was looking for his reason. This level of insight, and Sojiro demanded a round of applause. If I do, you'll die, Aozaki. His words were as irrational as always. But why? Why do it? Why go so far for me? She was yelling out of frustration. After thinking for a moment, Sojiro replied, I guess it's because I like you. Simple and to the point. His face seemed to ask why she would even question him so. There was a pause, no more than 2 seconds. Her surprise attack had stopped Aoko in her tracks. Alice was not the only one who had an ace up her sleeve. That line reached deeper even than Flat Snark could ever hope to. All Aoko could respond with was an expression of pure shock. It was a simple, stubborn reason, the strongest kind on earth. Sojiro Shizuki was indeed incomprehensible to be able to work unconditionally with someone who was trying to kill him. But she felt as though she'd finally grasped a sliver of his true nature. Tobimaru and the others' assessment of him was correct, as vexing as it was for her to admit. Even though I can't stand you, you sure are a dip, you know? He laughed at her sour grumbling. At this point, he was used to her insults. The clash of wills ended here. Aoko's blood ran hot from her blazing heart. If he was going to make a face like that, all she could do was try to think of a way to get them both home. Running away isn't really my thing, anyway. Fine, I'll stick it out to the end. If you're going to stay with me, Shizuki, I'm sure we can find some way to help you. Though her tone was lighthearted, there was still hesitation in her eyes. It was only natural Aoko had not even a clue as to how to begin to fight Snark. If only she had just been a bit more skilled, or had trained just a bit more, there might have been some way to look forward. I'm better than this. If only I had a way to peel back its true form. Unconsciously, she let her apprehension show. Sniveling was pointless. She would just have to figure it out by herself, but... What? That was all we need to figure out. Aoko gave him a look as to ask what that was supposed to mean. I mean, you asked me earlier to look for something weird, right? Sojiro also made a face that suggested she should have brought it up sooner. Wait, you know what it is? I think so. Well, I've been wondering about it for a while, actually. Sojiro whispered in her ear quietly, so as not to be overheard. Huh? It was certainly unexpected, but then again, equally obvious. After he explained the mistake, she knew right away that he was correct. At last she had an inkling of Flat Snark's original form, namely... It's the Ferris wheel! It's the frickin' Ferris wheel! I guarantee it! They strategized for 10 minutes. After deliberating the Snark's true form and figuring out a plan of attack, the two exchanged nods in their acceptance of their roles. Well, we'll be splitting up now. Just don't make it a repeat of the blunder in the House of Mirrors. You're the crux of this operation. If you bungle the start even a little, there's no coming back from this one. Though she jabbed him for his previous failure as a decoy, her voice was bright. Meanwhile, Sojiro was getting serious in his own way. He took Aoko's warning to heart. Good, but remember that our positions are reversed this time. If we fail, I'm not the one who's going to die, you are. I won't be there to clean up your mess, so watch your step.
今更ながらやっぱりさっき逃がしてもらえばよかったと思うぐらい慎重だ。
I know. After all this, I regret not taking her advice earlier. I'll be careful. Sojiro nodded, telling her to leave it to him. Though he made it sound like he was holding a grudge, it seemed to him to be the only way of showing her his resolve. Aoko let out a sigh of defeat. Once more, she couldn't figure him out. Seriously, I can't tell if you're a big idiot or a big hero. Whichever one it is, I'm counting on you. Don't let me down. She had wanted to say that she believed in him, but apparently that was too embarrassing for her. Aoko turned away from Sojiro and began to run. She had begun to think that maybe this change of pace was not so bad after all. And so ended the intermission. The young cast members were handed their new lines. Whatever happened next, the Night of Witches had at long last entered its climax. I don't think this is the climax. They split up. Are you sure? She was filled with foreboding at the Robin's report. Apparently they had gone in opposite directions. The park's residents had set off after the boy witness, and it would take them mere minutes to capture him, so the bird said. What do you mean? Is it actually him you're following? Not Aoko in disguise. The robin flapped its wings, chirping away any doubt. It had seen them with its own two eyes. Aoko was heading for the plaza while the Captivate was making a run for the roller coaster. Are you sure that Aoko abandoned him? It sounds a little too good to be true. Is Dumpty still on its tail? Robin nodded enthusiastically. It didn't know about the other birds, but with his superior night vision, it had seen that sucker clearly because he had moved to a high point. And Dumpty? He said to let him sing to the very end. That he may never get the chance again to do so for this asinine. Scratch Dumpty was ticking time bomb that would drop and detonate the moment its target averted its gaze. That is, as long as his target continued to observe him in a way he was a gentlemanly ploy kickshaw, though Alice wished he would forgo such niceties when in battle. The matter is fine. Keeping an eye on Dumpty won't save the boy anyway. Once the poem on his surface is complete, the door will open. No matter how far he runs, Dumpty will end him for us. Until the park, or rather the Snark, was destroyed, Sojiro would not be able to escape. Which meant the large concern was Aoko. Aoko had promised to protect the boy, which begged the question, where was she running to? As long as we stay here, we can't track Aoko. Alice looked over the park, ignoring the robin's attempt to get her attention with its plumage. Flat Snark was nearly reached its full size. It was a different breed of beast compared to the other cheap ploys. To her, it was one of her three most irreplaceable and precious familiars. Yes, she's all yours, Snark. Don't hold back until Aoko is brought to her knees. Alice remained where she was. With the same historical merit as the troll under the bridge and the poison-clawed reptile, Flat Snark was one of Alice's ultimate ploys. She was placing her trust in its reputation and ability. But don't forget, this is a game. When the contest is over, return to me. The drifting fog ignored its master's words. It was the one thing that Alice had misread. Flat Snark was a king, even among the other ploys, of terrible, vulgar antics. Death to the defeated, gruesome tragedy to the vanquished. It found no pleasure unless it brought about dramatic ruination of life and wealth. The fog billowed like wicked laughter. After all, only a king had the right to decide the fate of the vanquished, and the Snark's greed could not be contained. Thus, it hadn't even the slightest intent to play fair despite its master's orders. Over 100 feet high, One careful step at a time, the figure made its way gingerly down up the track, which stretched to the heart of the amusement park. He stayed, his beating chest and the pounding of his heart. Even tiny movements were an obstacle to his progress. Amazingly, the one making this pale face advanced higher and higher was Sojiro Shizuki. Far below, he saw the horde of bread creatures had congregated by the roller coaster platform. As they bustled this way and that, their numbers continued to increase by the minute, seemingly cheering on Sojiro with raised arms that he made his ascent. Or rather, they jeered as if beckoning him to come down. Well, at least they don't like heights. Well, so of course neither did Sojiro, but his current state was the lesser of two evils. The only thing that followed him now was a floating egg. After heaving a huge sigh, Sojiro bent forward a bit and climbed the track that inclined toward the heaven. 150 feet now. If this were a skyscraper, he wouldn't be on the 16th floor. A strong gust of wind whipped through his air. Humans had an instinctual fear of heights. In particular, a place like this, which called forth visions of falling to one's death, would cause a person's knees to tremble against their will. It was an instinct that forewarned death, urging its masters to return to the safety of the ground. It was a reasonable reaction. Climbing the roller coaster tracks went far beyond funny stories to the realm of fantasy. The strong winds and change in air pressure were a hindrance. His instincts screamed at him to stop, causing his limbs to go numb, his muscles to go limp, and his mind to race. Even if he had been tied to a lifeline, a mere 15 feet of climbing would still have caused his thoughts to freeze out of sheer terror, and it was only going to get worse. And it would only get worse from here, exponentially so. Every foot forward increased the load of both his mind and his body by another degree. I can do this. Just a little bit more to the top. Burden on his mind, notwithstanding, he carefully measured the toll his body with every step. His legs, which had carried running this far, threatened to buckle the moment he let his guard down. That Sojiro's role was more dangerous than hers. Wait, would Aozaki have been so worried if I wasn't tired? Sojiro laughed as he stared at the floating egg. He reflected on the course of the events that had led to this absurd situation. Even 10 minutes ago, they had been engaged in conversation. Alright, since we know what form it takes, we need to talk about how we're going to get there. Sojiro, we're going to destroy it. Sojiro felt a shudder travel down his spine as Aoko smug grinned. In hindsight, Aoko had been more than happy at this point to make him do something absurd. How we're going to destroy it? Can't you just... Sojiro wondered aloud from what he'd seen. Aoko had enough firepower to tear clean through the fence. He refrained from speculating about Flat Snark's true form because he felt there was nothing they could do about it, even if they knew. But then, that had changed. For Aoko, the impossible was quite literally within her grasp. It won't be that easy. By my estimate, I wouldn't get within 150 feet of that thing. Despair filled Sojiro's eyes. Aoko lifted a hand to her long hair, and the magically charged fingertips clipped a clean tuft of it. But we can make up the difference with some elbow grease. Get to the highest place you can. When the time is right, I'll give you a sign. Just toss this into the air. That's all you need to do. But based on where Aoko pointed her gaze, she did not really mean to leave it up to Sojiro to pick the highest place he could find. She was staring conspicuously at one of the amusement park's two main attractions, the roller coaster. So, in other words, you're saying we split up, then you want me to run away from monsters chasing me and escape it to somewhere high, right? Exactly. And hey, wouldn't you know it, the tracks of that winding roller coaster are perfect. There were two demons in this park. Her smile made even Sojiro want to respond that it was far from perfect. Yeah, she's got a... That expression is, I got a second plan that I'm not telling you about. Far be from me to question your motives here, but you're not secretly working with that girl to kill me, are you? Now, wasn't it you who said it was okay if I was the one who killed you? It's not nice to twist other people's words. Sojiro hung his head, but this was not the same. If he did, as she said, he would die from exhaustion before kids even had a chance to eat him. I'm not a monster. Hey, look at me. I'll cast a charm on you. It was the lightest of touches, close enough for their breast and skin to come in contact. Oh. Zaki, he finished with a hushed voice. For one of them, this was rather mundane magecraft. For the other, it was a head-spinning intimate ambush. The weight of the air, the tremble of one's breast. Light lags behind, while shadows pull ahead. Words that could not be produced by a normal larynx, carrying a peculiar weight to them, reverberated against his eardrums. If words were given colors, these would have been the color of her name, blue. Sojiro's exhausted body and burning blood gently cooled. A bird in the sky, a fish in the sea, you in the distance. Stuffed doubt and anxiety in the sack. Begin the journey at dawn. A shining star falls into your heart. In reality, it took but a few seconds, but the sudden contact felt a little longer. Mesmerize successful, I think. This is the first time I've actually felt the take. I guess all those lectures from Alice paid off. A very merry Aoko stood aside, a very confused Sojiro. After he asked what the heck had occurred, she responded, It's an elementary suggestion. I temporarily erased your sense of fear, so you should be able to climb up there, no problem. The biggest thing standing in your way is your nerves, right? If you don't feel fear, then no matter how high you climb, it's no different from walking a balance beam. He seemed to get it. It actually all sounded like Greek to Sojiro, but he accepted it as an explanation for her strange actions. Finally, I made it. He arrived at the summit of the track. For nearly 200 feet high, Sojiro had a bird's eye view of the entire amusement park. He was able to spot Aoko's figure right away. In the plaza not far from here, he seemed to be occupied by something conspicuous. Her surrounding lay still. The breadmen were still busy trying to figure out how to reach Sojiro by trial and error from the roller coaster's entrance. We're over 300 feet away now. No wonder I'm drenched in sweat. Look at how much ground I've covered. The strong winter gales quickly dried up the sweat on his brow, but he was drenched underneath his shirt. This much sweat was worth at least a half-mile run, not to mention all the scares he had experienced through the night. Okay, now all I have to do is wait for the signal. He felt a wave of relief, but not at the thought of Aoko destroying the snark in this nightmarish park. He was simply happy he could repay it a bit of debt from his house of mirrors. A blue bullet rose from the plaza where Aoko was located. That's the signal! Sojiro stood up atop the track, pulled out the pouch he had stored in his pocket, and tossed it. Without any regard to his questionable footing, he gave it a mighty overarm pitch. The small pouch drew a parabolic curve in Aoko's direction, quickly becoming untied in midair. Inside the bag was the lock of her hair and a small stone weight. Just throw it with the wind. We're somewhere high up, and I'll take it from there. Aoko had said it was Sojiro's effort, but that had set the plan in motion. The tuft of her hair remained airborne, drifting as if watching over its owner. Sojiro's job was done. He remained concerned about the egg hovering over him, but there was nothing he could do about it. Sojiro breathed a sigh of relief and leaned forward to watch the rest of the plan unfold, but then... In the corner of his eyes, he thought he spotted something familiar approaching Aoko.
ルートセット。
Connecting to crest. Direct current. Crests. First layer. Second layer. Third layer. Reserved. Magical energy supply fixed. Greater source. Flow. Check. Angle. Check. Formula. Stability. Good enough. A pattern began to carve itself into the brick straight. The casting of an unprecedented incantation with an unprecedented rage. Keeping the rising tension contained with her chest, the fledgling mage snapped her fingers. Done. Full configuration. Convergent. Launch. She kneeled at the center of the formula and raised her hand to the night sky. Not even a glimpse of the transmogrified fantasy land around her entered her vision now. Only one thing, one untouchable thing, was reflected in her blue eyes.
実はずっと気になっていたことが。
So, this has been on my mind for a while. This is how their conversation started a few minutes prior. Sojiro began with a simple statement of fact. In truth, it was really the simplest of discrepancies. Any difference between the reality of an hour ago and the illusion of the present was both
雲があったから勘違いしたんだろうけど。
I thought maybe I didn't know what I was looking at because of the clouds. It was hiding in plain sight. Too impossible to be real, too outlandish to be here. In the amusement park, where every paradigm had shifted, something was brazenly flaunting its normalcy.
今夜は新月なんだ、青崎。
Tonight is supposed to be a new moon, Naozaki.
思えば初めっからその形だった
Yeah,
のね。
come to think of it, that's actually what you started as. The distance from the Earth to the moon was 238,900 miles. If it truly the identical to the actual moon, and this monster indeed lived up to its eerie reputation. At a distance that vast, there would have been no need to hide. It could flaunt its true form for all to see. But it had to hide its true form. That meant it was vulnerable. The monster's camouflage implied that it sat within the reach of a human
こっち
hand.
の最大射程はよくて600ってところだけど。
At best, my max range is 650 yards or so. At this point, it was time to give it all she had. Drawing on the energy surging throughout the park, she extended her firing arm. Blue firework launched into the air. Looking up at her hair dancing in the wind above, Alko reached out her hand as if to catch the night sky. The mage's own body made for perfect catalyst. For a female mage, the hair she had grown out for many years made for a particularly valuable and powerful source of fuel. To use it all she had to do was to apply her will. She locked the fingers up on both her hands together and shouted,
三層展開全術式連結起動
Deploy third layer. All formula commence. Linked activation. She hurled forth a clear challenge to bind the moon itself to her. The mist began to whirl around the vortex. The monster high above bore its fan with a sudden huge spell that appeared in midair.
見抜かれた
Did she figure it out? By the time Alice had noticed it changed, the hostility between Alko and the Snark was palpable.
なら青子
Very well.
す
This
ぐに
round
戻ります
goes to Alko.
確か
Return
に
immediately.
消したのは
Perhaps removing the rain. Perhaps removing the rain clouds was too obvious a hint. But I suppose one can't win. But fog continued to thicken with no sight of abating. The moon that floated in the night sky could not pardon such an insolent mage. If the Lord of the Night would bow down to such impudence, there was no staying its path to challenge so
Snark.
great. Snark! The robin swooped in to give its report, but Alice waved his way. Her gaze was fixed and transformed toward the moon. Her calls of restraint did not reach it. The fairy tale monster was beholden to nobody, and would have no qualms unleashing its vast might upon its puny prey. core of her magic bullet hollow. The magic circuits within her body spun. Aoko fed the magical energy, scorching her nerves with imaginary flame. She was linked to the formula inscribed on the ground. The spell was read and executed the same as it always was, but its output was beyond reckoning. This was much firepower, even the mundane process would invite injury upon its caster. It was enough to burn up the nerves that were acting as the barrel. I can do this. The imaginary heat had reached a terrifying temperature. Aoko trembled at the endless feeling, but would have to grin and bear it, lest their efforts come to naught. Aoko could no longer move. When she had learned the Snark's true form from Sojiro, she gave up on any superiority a movable turret offered, instead of opting to become a stationary cannon. That was the only way she could reach it. It was impossible to hunt the Snark unless she anchored her crest at its location and angle. At the same time, the action revealed that she was out of options. Once the fuse was lit, she would have no choice but to fight the bitter end. Aoko took a deep breath. This was the way she wanted it. Her preparation were complete. She would be able to deliver this maelstrom of magical energy directly to the moon, like a rocket payload. The third mid-air layer served as the cannon's muzzle in sight. It would fire the magical energy once it reached critical, and allowed Aoko to adjust the aim of fire. Fog? The moon began warping around within her scope. As Aoko charged her magical energy, the void displayed its golden form to mock her. Come worship the heavens, powerless Scion, with an innocent bloodline. There was a point along the otherworldly sky, a mystical visage obfuscated by jade mists and azure clouds, called the greatest treasure known to the world of magecraft, rarity more valuable than an entire kingdom, crown phantasm. That's it. That's Flat Snark. Set apart from the first, the world's greatest fabrication. Not yet, just need a little more time. Her instinct screamed at her to delay no further. This fairy tale monster was the greatest of its kind and was about to expose its true form. Its open hostility made it clear that it was ready to counterattack. I can't move. Not with an incantation this long. If it attacks before me, it's all over. She had to shoot it down first. The magical energy was at 80%. The formula was operating normally. All that was left was to pull the trigger button. The calm voice inside her asked if she was really okay. She had one shot at this, and there was no going back. It was a battle of precision with no room for miscalculations. In a tenth of a second, hesitation would tip the scales. She was ready for the pain. Was she ready to deal with the fallout if she missed? Could she really even take down the moon with such a tiny bullet in the first place? Enough. Shoot first. Ask questions later. Her eyes fixed upon the moon were filled with determination. She knew that the moment she fired, intense recoil would overwhelm her entire body. Still, she shouted, "Bring it on! I'm gonna send this thing spinning with all I've got!" With every ounce of spirit she possessed, she fired her ultra-long-range projectile into the sky.
I'm firing my laser!
That's basically what's happening right now. The third layer embraced the magic bullet fired from the surface of the Earth. It crest, an extension of Aoko's self, and reached a light to pierce the moon. However, an enormous blue canopy pulverized the beam. It returned the ether that 3,000-degree flame to nothing as it came in contact with the bullet. The recoil of the Grand Mage craft literally boiled her blood. Her body couldn't handle it. Her heart stopped. Her brain went numb from the pain and impact. Her nerves putrefied from end to end. But her magic crest revived them all by force. Ice? It was blocked by ice? Even though her vision had gone white, she could still see. Swallowing the blood in her mouth, Aoko looked up with a scowl. there it was, an enormous shield of ice sneering deformed skull.
撃つのが遅すぎた。それでも早すぎた。
Did I fire too late?
手を作られ
Did
る
I
前
fire
に
too
撃てば
early?
よかった。
Should I have shot before I made the shield?
母ちゃん無謀
Was
す
it
ぎ
too reckless to shoot its head off?
どっちでもいい。
Who cares?
急ごう。再起動。
First layer, second layer, reactivate, hurry! There's no time to think or hesitate. The magical energy throughout the park began to gather. Alpo knelt. Across from the tyrannical force of the moon, she intuited that the ice had yet to fully form. Flat Snark still hadn't reached its full strength, which was exactly why.
まずいまずいまずい。
Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Accelerating the spell, Alpo damaged her own body. The burden of linking the formula to the Snark caused intense pain. All she could do was grit her teeth and endure it. All because
これ私のマックスよりもっと上だ。
ice is tougher than my best shot. Alpo had gotten a read on her relative strength. Even if its volume of magical energy was identical, Snark's form, its mystic scale was in a different league. Alpo could charge her energy to an absolute limit, and that was barely making a dent in the ice wall. Meanwhile, there was nothing she could do to prevent her own annihilation. If the Snark gathered as much energy as it could.
なら進まない。
And before that happens, she loaded her next shot. She issued orders to the floating third layer. Ignoring the toll of her body, she began to accelerate the first layer formula. Their roll on her right hand single layer was to absorb the stores surrounding magical energy. A thick fog of drift through the park with an ancient ether spewed out by Flat Snark's own body, but Alpo could pour it into her formula. Alpo's body, which had integrated with the formula, took on an amount of magical energy as far surpassed its maximum capacity. It seethed in agony, or rather, it trembled in delight. For a mage, magical energy was compelling to reach the realm of mystics, the expansion of eternal time, the liquefaction of the self, the release from the physical, to all what one might call a near-death experience. On the precipice of what lay beyond, Alpo stood firm, faced reality. Still, reality had come to break her will. The gap between them was plain to the observer. A gun barrel named Ao Kawasaki had not a chance to chip away at the lump of ice. She accelerated the spell further. The skull grinned. The ice was no shield. It was the hammer to crush mages who did not know their place. The moon laughed as it prepared to crush not just Aoko, but the boy atop the roller coaster as well as the park itself in entirety. So what if it hurts? Her circus were on the verge of going critical. Her body had been charged with scorching powers applied. More fingertips to her eyeballs. She would see the bullet fired. She would arrange the magecraft formula as quickly as her nerves. Transmission speed wouldn't allow. A single attack was not enough. There was no way to shoot it from its flank, which meant there was only one solution.
セレクターオルタネイト。
Reconnecting to alternate currents. The third layer began to transform. It switched from direct alternate current. The spell was supposed a strong point was its ability to adjust the trajectory mid-flight. But right now, all she wanted was numbers.
セットオクタグラム。
Connecting. Octagram. All layers. Max rotation. A blue sun shined down upon the amusement park. A beam of light at maximum output streaked forth to pierce the golden moon. Take this! Holding down the trigger, she continued to fire, taking in energy out of the infinite beam. The battle had become a tussle over magical energy that filled the park. From the very beginning, this had been the Snark's home turf. The Snark had control over the last 80% of the space, while all who had 20 at best. No, I can't stop it. No. Castle Vice descended as if to call the match. All she could do was delay the inevitable. She knew that she had been backed into a wall, and right now the only thing she could do was keep firing. Then again, perhaps not. There was another option. If she converted all of her magical energy into defense, there was a tiny chance, no, not tiny, a great possibility, in fact, that she could save just her. Shut up and do it already. Now you can place a chance to all magical energy here. Into that broken mouth, I'll continue to rotate her circuits. Time seemed to stop at the magical energy overdose. A second of intense pain lasted an eternity. Then amidst everything, something approached one step at a time. Something from among the park's shadows. Something. She felt goosebumps from head to toe. The issue was no longer in the ice overhead. In the midst of the stillness, the Red Death drew closer, step by ominous step. Why here? Why now? Her circuits and her mind began to rupture out of terror. The composition of her formula and soul began to rip apart. There it was, just behind her. Its footsteps came to a halt. It reached around and cupped her face in the blood-stained hand. Greetings. She wanted to scream out with all her might. This is it. Nothing matters. I couldn't care less. Run or don't run. It doesn't matter. Quit hiding and reveal yourself. Use whatever you can and show no mercy. That was it. She had one final card to play. Once a miracle had been gifted to her, almost as a joke, it made the ice look like child's play. That was what the Red Death had come to kill. Using it would spell ruin. Not using it would mean death by ice. Then why hesitate? There were no conditions on its use. There was no price to pay for its power. She simply would cease to be herself. That was all. Humans love to exist in areas of gray. Dozens of electrical impulses connected in the brain every minute. Nothing lasts forever, not even oneself. It was not anything particularly worthy of disdain. It was not even anything remarkably worthy of being called taboo. Shut up! What escaped her lips now was rage, bewilderment from the red silhouette. The girl let out an inaudible scream. Could true magic truly be her savior when an opportunistic load of bull? After all, to begin with, I have no clue how to do that shit yet. Indeed, Aoko was still in the dark when it came to that magic, whatever it was. I'm such a moron. She woke up from her momentary hallucination. The very illusion of her breaking soul had shown her. Whining had the opposite effect on her. Her pride was now ablaze. So, you're gonna run from this responsibility too? Sojiro was right. Her opponent had put her in check, and she had done the same to it. It was clearly why she was losing. So now all she needed was a counterplan. Well within her limits. No matter the odds, she was not one to give up without one last shot. That's right. Giving up only comes after you've tried absolutely everything. Her numbed fingers clenched into a fist tight. She was betting against the house. an unreasonable gamble that should have made her question her sanity. If her first step was off by an inch, her body would be instantly vaporized. But she knew a boy who never fled. She knew that the steadfast courage could shine its light no matter how small any desperate situation. Yes, there was more than just herself to be concerned about. If that ice fell, it would mean destruction of the park in its entirety. Everything he had achieved, everything he had risked, dared, and happily put his life on the line for, would all be for naught.
それじゃあ何のために意地を張ったか
What
わからない
possessed him to be so bullheaded? Determination and confidence surged through her like electricity. She was in no mood to be crushed by giant sheets of ice. If she was going to lose, she'd rather do it with a grin as defiantly as possible. Alka was a sore loser. At this point, she would rather burn herself to cinders. Disconnect. Expand area. Reconnect. Grunted in pain. Energy raged through her body. Her circuits were on the verge of disintegration. Inscribed upon her body, her magic circuits were magicraft in her physical form. It did not, however, stop the simple skin and flesh, burrowed to the very marrow of her bones. A playful smile graced her lips. Her sense of reason had been turned upside down by pain. It was only natural.
でもできるじゃない
I can do this! She had to praise her own body for holding out love so long it would push beyond its limits. Soulface noticed the abnormality. It finally recognized the challenge for dominance over space. It laughed at the conceit it faced. Never did expect a magician to challenge the great flat snark, lord of vessels over a millennium. In such an age of decline, he tried to catch her breath. She braced herself. She was going to smash that ice to pieces. Both had access to the same amount of magical energy. One of them was greatly outmatched. But
出力装置に逆らった
there was difference in their output. If I'm losing because of the scale of energy absorption to the size of the barrel,
単純な話私をでかくするだけでいい チェンジスワンプラ
reconnect, bullet, configuration. The feedback would go beyond anything she had experienced to date. Quite simply, her decision went beyond recklessness. She expanded both formula to maximum size. The first layer would transform into a giant vortex swallowing up the mist. The second layer would process it from one end and pump it to her barrel.
人生が甘かった
I was
落
naive,
とすなんて半端
thinking
も
I
いい
could
こ
do
と
something cute and shoot it down. If I needed to do it, blast it to hell. Removable power answered the spellcaster conviction. It formed the pattern of a writhing serpent. Voiceless magical power flew the banner of revolution. Now look upon the earth, O venerable one. Now see this pioneer, first among trailblazers. She embodies a species that knows no fear, renders not all manner of mystic tradition.
貸し借りはここまでよ嘘つきブーちゃん
I'm done borrowing from you. You
お
lying
望み通
Bajun.
り年を
If you
つけて
really
返
want
して
it,
あげる
I'm more than happy to give it all back. The newest magician commands the principles of consumption and extinction. Dude, she's just making bigger and bigger lasers. And the Baron pulled his light motor to the castle of ice. Barrel held fast. Control of magical energy was divine. 100,000 struggle for the taste of victory. Victory despite her absolute recklessness use of magical energy. The energy scales have been tipped to their breaking point, but nevertheless in her favor. Bullet. Configuration.
ブラックライトスタート
Total eclipse. Coverage. Tearing a new one. Shatter, 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 shatter. The skyscraper scattered into atomized dust. The island, the unattainability extolled, had swallowed the whole despair in many chunks. Long had it crowded. Yet now, azure mist bemoaned its demise. The sky and the icy canopy crumbled. The snark-hunting bullet jumped over the moon. Its throes of death surrounded like a roaring sea, reverberating across the fairy tale land. The battle was over. The thick fog dissipated and shattered melted ice away before it hit the ground. A lethal bullet unseated the Night King of Verm's throne, affording him no time to grieve his loss, the oil of the moon. The untouched, flat snark. A dreamscape had begun, with its resurrection ended, with its demise drawing a close to the nightmare. Oh man, I guess I kinda went overboard. Flat on her back, Aoko looked up at the night sky. She lay there perfectly still, not able to move a single finger. When she tried, her whole body screamed out in agony. She was completely empty on magical energy, and her magic crest had come to a halt. She estimated that would require a whole day of to recover all her bodily functions. Sadly, all she could do in that moment was take a breath. At least her chest was swelling with pride. She had gone toe-to-toe with a fairy tale monster and had emerged victorious. The battlefield conditions had favored her, it was true, but there were no denying that Aoko had come a long way in the last 6 months. Luck or not, I owe Alice an apology. Once a ploy has been broken, it's gone forever. Flat Snark would never again return to this world. It was an insanely rare item, so invaluable that it would have been impossible to price it for an auction at the Association in London. Aoko had sent Alice priceless treasures to oblivion. Needless to say, things had gotten more than a little out of hand. Still, they both agreed to the fight, so Alice probably would not complain. Even if she was furious, she would never be so undignified as to show it. The second Aoko relaxed, her fatigue finally caught up with her. She did everything in her power to fight off an overwhelming drowsiness. Aside from a few minor internal injuries, her body was miraculously unscathed. She felt like she could probably stand up and dust herself off after a bit of rest. The golden moon continued to burn in the night sky. Well, you are oil, after all. You could probably burn for. Ako's bleary eyes went wide in astonishment. She was still unable to lift a finger. Oh, right. The baker found the snark disappeared along with it. She sighed in resignation. Ako accepted that her final stand left her with only 10 seconds before she burned to ash too. Elsewhere, just a short moment prior, buffeted by strong winds atop the roller coaster, Sojiro gravely peered down at the ground.
Moon? らなの頑丈すぎないか。
In the distance, there was something familiar in the direction of the ruined House of Mirrors. Sojiro's job to throw Aoko's hair from the greatest height was complete. While not the most impressive of tasks, it was absolutely a matter of life or death. And to top it all up, just thinking about how he was going to get back down to the ground was making him dizzy. He experienced more than enough trouble for one day.
いやでも
Wait,
あれ
but... He was flustered as he stood at the top of the swaying bridge. The skull suddenly appeared in the sky above. On the ground, he could see the circling blue light with Aozaki in the middle of it. And one more thing. From an angle that only Sojiro could see, a shadow stalked Aoko while she challenged the moon. It was shaped like a person missing the lower half of its body. The disembodied torso slowly clawed its way towards Aoko. They were still over 600 feet apart. Fortunately for Aoko, she completely failed to notice it approaching from behind.
遠くて見えないけど
The puppet's back? I thought we got rid of this thing. I'm done with it. Why is that back? Why? Why is that back? I thought we were done with it. It's too far away to make out, but isn't that he was sure of what it was now? The fucking puppet! There was only one thing in the park that chased Aoko and not him. The puppet.
でもほら
But,
あるいは
I
ひょ
mean,
っとして
maybe it's
ただの
a
偶然では
coincidence,
ない
right? No, get... His mind ran in circles. It was a perfectly reasonable reaction. Any grip on reality he might have had left was long lost when Aoko started firing beams of light at the monstrous moon. Well, Aoko's merciless fire buffeted the roller coaster like a storm. Standing on it was almost enough for him to fall off. At any rate, Sojiro could fathom the situation. Should he head back to the entrance of the roller coaster and warn Aoko of the incoming threat? No, there's no way he would make it in time. And to make matters worse, there was a port of red down there waiting for him. And it may very well have been the case that Aoko was already aware of the puppet. He would take it out as soon as it got closer. If she was Sojiro was sure he would only be in the wrong. But it did not seem like there was anything he could do to help. And beyond that, Aoko had not only one was not the only one in danger, he was quite in a predicament himself. You can't go home, good. The road home was never as safe as the one that was true here as it had been in the mountains. The path he was on was no exception. As risky as the ascent had been, it was even more dangerous to go back down. There was no time to be worrying about others. His shaking legs reminded him that only 200 feet separated him from
大丈夫
death.
それを
I'll be fine. I know that. Just... His head was pounding. This was reckless and stupid. Having been raised in the mountains, he was more sensitive to danger than anyone raised in the city. Just thinking about what he was about to do made his throat seize up. There was only one thing he could say for sure.
青崎のことだ
Aozaki has no idea that he was coming for her. Run! 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 Be the hero! With a sobbing shout, Sojiro started making his way down the 200-foot plane. Come on! Come on! You can be the hero! You know you can! His race towards death accelerated. He never meant to speed up, but downward slope propelled him forward. Here, go. It was far too late for regrets. Now that he was running, he had no choice but to go even faster. Time was not in sight. He would never make it in time. If he took the long way down, never mind the bread maze crowding the exit of the roller coaster. If the exit's blocked, the outcome would be the same. Whether he went slowly or quickly, there was no reason to rush his death as swiftly as he did. So what? So what if it was futile? Sojiro cleared the doubts of his mind. He turned his attention to what he could do. Keep his footing and try to arrive at the bottom as quickly as he could.
間違えるな
Focus. Forget whether you'll be there in time to save her. The more important thing is, he had no idea what impulses were driving his stiff limbs. He just focused on the moment, pushing past the fear and cold logic. At his core, he was the kind of person to deal with the problem head-on. There would be time to think about the consequences later. The hesitation was not his only obstacle. Not now. The worst possible hindrance appeared at the time. Not focusing on the track would mean certain death. Sojiro sensed something wrong at the egg. He had been studiously observing out of one eye. Something had changed, and at the very moment he realized it. I can't be looking to the right side right now. Sojiro stumbled and instinctively cut himself. It was a miracle he had not fallen. Descending a roller coaster on foot was an act of suicide. The egg stayed right by his side, so close it was likely it would collide with him. Though he was trying not to look at it, he could not help but feel uneasy that the door was decoration and its center was gradually opening. Damn it! Why now? Jump on the thing! He cursed his rotten situation, and yet he refused to slow down. He ran even faster, glaring at the egg on his side. This is crazy! What's wrong with me? Sojiro was baffled to find that he was still smiling, and perhaps he had something to do with Aoko's charm. Sojiro could not tell one way or the other. He could still feel Aoko's fingers to his skin. The truism and expectation she had placed in him was etched into his heart, but what spurred him on was something entirely different. This all stemmed from a much deeper problem. There was something inside him that he could not understand all the time, but would eventually come to terms with one day. Alright, less than 5 feet left. He carefully adjusted the distance as he ran down the track of death. The distance between what? That went without saying that the distance between himself and one thing that could save his life. He told himself he was going to do it over and over, like a mantra. Sojiro could not believe him himself. He was able to do... What he was about to do was incredibly stupid, but what is stupid when it's smart is not an option. I'm really going to do this? This is insane. Amidst it all, he laughed at how pointless his self-reflection was now. Temporary confusion and psychological thrill ride both had laid his soul. What really mattered in his life? The answer to that question was simple. His primitive values did not crave success or reward. All he wanted was... This is it. To live the way he wanted. It was an obligation to the people around him. His desire to live his way. His way was his and his alone. Here we go! If the egg had been equipped with vocal function, he would have gasped in shock as what had happened next. The boy, who had only tried to escape up until this point, suddenly shifted his weight. He pointed his feet outward instead of inward. On the edge of one rail, he crouched ever so slightly to maintain momentum and gazed at the floating egg. Close enough. I can do this. He soared through the night sky. It was a flight that lasted a mere 1.5 seconds. A cordless bungee jump from 100 feet out above the ground. His destination? The egg! See? Okay, maybe he does have half brain sometimes. The only thing that would stop his fall was a giant flying egg. And it's basically rubber. So when it hits the ground, it's going to bounce. He shrieked his time out of elation when he desperately clung to the egg's surface just earlier. Cold-blooded witch had told him that without fear, top of the building would feel no different than without speed. This from the same witch that would have been left speechless had she witnessed the spectacle. It was one thing to be fearless, it was another to be reckless. And he falls into the latter? What boy did next would give her a headache in the days to come? I'm counting on you, egg! Clinging to the egg, he shifted his gaze above it. He felt the rapid descent. Sojiro focusing on half-shut eyes on his ground, leaping the egg once they were a few feet up the ground, and turned back to carefully establish eye contact. Something so unbelievable, though, to Sojiro. The elevation at the department store and the mysterious floating egg were both just moving objects, virtually indistinguishable from one another. Alright, it didn't break. It's always a shame when food goes to waste. That's not food. He landed near the plaza. A shortcut that almost cost him his life paid off. Sojiro took off running the second his feet touched the ground. The puppet after Aoko was the only thing on his mind. He paid no mind to the moonlight in the sky, nor the egg, which was furious about being used, and seconds away from self-destructing and blasting fragments all over the place. Azaki! Aoko's dumbfounded expression spurred Sojiro on. The curse was complete. The empty egg began to sing and warning let them know there was no escape. Kaboom! Shrapnel from the egg exploded through the air. Behold, Queen Alice. Alice had a grave and Dumpty quickly robbed him of his senses. Okay, was that it? He snapped back to the task at hand and ran to Aoko, still lying on the ground. His legs moved as if they had mind of their own, though he couldn't have stopped them anyway, since he could no longer feel them. Don't you puppets ever give up? He just used the rest of the moon's orbital bombardment, I guess, to take it out. The scrambled murder case. Piles of rubble became flowers of light blooming from the earth. And they're alive. Now for the love of God, have that puppet be dead. Please, no more puppet. I'm so done with that puppet. The final curtain drew close and defeated left the battleground. Had Alice Konji seen it happen, she would have been beside herself. She would have escaped by a hair's breadth. Oh, by the skin of your teeth. The only person in a position to witness the rare mutual destruction was the girl who had just been saved from it. The boy who had never stopped running paid it no mind. Phew. I thought you were a goner. Safety of the girl in his arms meant infinitely more to him than the miraculous way in which he saved her. Holy crap. That was intense. Oh, the moon did not wait for dawn to set. The ornamental texture of the fairy tale kingdom faded away. All of the illusions returned to the way they were before, from the ostentatious chords reverberating through the streets, to the puppets welcoming their guests. Peace and quiet reigned once more over a forgotten kingdom never to be awakened again. It's over. That nightmare is over. Out flickered the embers of a late night dream. Even the electric lamps that illuminated the park. Together they watched it disappear. Sojiro laid on the ground, desperately gasping for air, like a fish out of water. The curse of the exploding egg had numbed his pain, and he was understandably exhausted after all he had experienced. He looked like he could be blown away by the lightest of breezes. While Aoko was also exhausted, she was still in better shape. Focused on taking deep breaths, even breaths, she was already working to recover her strength. So, she addressed Sojiro indifferently as her gaze remained on the amusement park. The abruptness of it was a bit theatrical in nature. She wanted to look at him as she spoke. I feel what they're feeling right now. You did something you did something kind of amazing, didn't you? The moment she had accepted death had seemed like an eternity. She was beside herself in shock at how indifferent she had been at the charge rained down from the moon. but a reassuring voice had snapped her back to reality. Why did he do it? What was he thinking? What moronic things had he done to pull it off? She had no answers for the questions. Lying on the ground as she was, all she knew was that she had more than made up for his failure in the house of mirrors, and then some. She addressed him hoping to find answers, but found herself unable to probe any further. To dig in any deeper would feel like defeat, which is why it was so unlike her to ask him in the first place. Lucky for her, Sojiro had neither the capacity nor sensitivity to understand how egocentric she was being.
すごいって。
Amazing.
それは青崎
You
の方
were
だろ。
pretty amazing, Ozaki. He stuttered between labored breaths. It was taking him so much effort just to breathe that he could not address her properly. She watched him out of the corner of her eye. Thinking back on it, the boy had performed the same role each time. Each and every time he did what he could in spite of his fickleness. It was far more admirable than her nearly suicidal tactics, even if she did defeat her opponent. He did not even recognize how extraordinary his last act of courage was.
提案。あいつをやっつけるのに協力したら、
If I help you kill
俺
that
のこ
thing,
とを見逃してく
will
れ
you
る？
let me go? At the very least, he had the courage to keep trying whatever he could. A spectator might have viewed him as a supporting actor. His actions were not exactly memorable. No, they were ballsy. They were absolutely just ballsy in all sorts of directions. But the lead actress he supported did not see it that way.
まあね、
Well,
認めたくないし、
I
口
don't
には
really have
もっとしたくない
want to admit it to myself, much less say it aloud, but such inspired actions were wasted in a supporting role. This guy really pulled off the impossible. It was so amazing that she wanted to shout it out as loud as she possibly could for all the world to hear.
青崎？
Ozaki
ジンチ君以外もどうすぎる
is
と
so
思ってないのか。
innocent it makes me want to barf. All Aoko could do was sigh. How could she not? Even she was forced to admit that the way he'd snatched her from the jaws of death was dashing.
評価甘めだけど、
I must be getting soft. Truth be told, he was a lunatic for doing what he did. She steadied her breathing and composed herself. While she was in bad shape, she still had her pride as a mage to consider. That was why she felt a need to maintain an air of dignity.
しずき君、見逃すのは今日だけって
I
話だ。
originally meant to let you off the hook for today only,
なしでいいわ。
but I'm willing to let the whole thing go.
命は助け
For
て
the
あ
time
げる
being, I've decided to let you live. She hastily extended her right hand. It was either to shake his or to help him up. However, Sojiro did not take her hand, but instead stood up on his own. This night, despite the sheer insanity that he had just experienced, his face had not once looked as incredulous as it did its own.
何よそのリアクションは。
What? Something wrong? She stammered, worried that she had deeply embarrassed herself. Sojiro's gaze was fixed upon Aoko. A problem had dawned on Aoko. Though she normally hated being stared at, this time she did not mind. Rather, she was enjoying the warmth in his eyes. Felt like it was something he could almost come to appreciate. Don't you get it? This isn't about friendship. And I didn't mean he likes you either. Believe me when I say that. Oh. The conversation yesterday came rushing back. It was a memory better left forgotten.
いかん、それは違う。
No, not happening. Pushing Tobimaru's words out of her mind, Aoko turned to Sojiro.
それとこれは別だから。
Don't get any
私はあんた
ideas.
のこととか
I don't care about you in the
もっとどうでもいい
least.
から。
Puzzled, Sojiro tilted
さ
his
っ
head.
き嫌いだって言われたけど、
You already told me how much you dislike me. He responded matter-of-factly to her sudden declaration. She certainly had pointed that out, and to his face no less. It was a mere figure of speech that he had not meant to take literally. But now was not the time to belabor the point. I'm not talking about that. I was saying you shouldn't get your hopes up, no matter how far you've fallen from me. Yet belabor she did anyway. Aoko blushed slightly, realizing how inane she was being. She wondered how she'd ended up in this position. And yet, she knew that she had to get this off her chest. All that was left was to politely wait for his response. I can't eat you. Such a heartbreakingly painful words were too much for the simple boy to hear. His shoulders slumped as the world was coming to an end. Or so Aoko had imagined. On the contrary, Sojiro was sitting there in deep thought. Did you just say, I'm in love with you? Sojiro murmured the words as if they were a magic spell. She shot right back with an affirmative. After a moment of deep contemplation, the boy turned to the expectant girl and said, Why do you think that? He had to be joking, but he was not. He was completely serious. Of course he's serious! Of course he's serious! So, he liked her, but he didn't like her. Of course the vice president had jumped to the conclusion. The boy had no interest in romance. He probably didn't even know what that was. And she's not wrong! So, she was incredibly embarrassed by how confused Sojiro still appeared to be. Her rosy complexion spread throughout her entire body. I'll ask again, but why do you think that? That's what I want to know! You freaking moron! Tobimano! Just like that, she had lost her cool and given it an unjustifiable outburst. It was time to seal off an area and destroy all evidence. Aoko's embarrassment devolved into sheer panic, and her grudge against Tobimano suddenly manifested as criminal assault. Assault is the least of her worries. She lashed out with a punch that could have taken down a bird mid-flight. More specifically, it was a brutal right hook. Aoko blinked. Her blow had connected with something solid, snapping her out of her reverie. Her temper had lashed out as a completely defenseless Sojiro. It had been a splendid blow with all her weight behind it, knocking him out cold. Sojiro groaned, grumbling to the ground. Her punch finished the job that the curse had started. If not for the discomfort on his face, he appeared almost to be sleeping. Aoko convinced herself that he was napping, not concussed. Well, whatever. I was going to end like this anyway. The tension in her shoulders erased. As she looked down at Sojiro, a ton had gotten in her way over the course of the day, but the day was saved for now. With nobody left to butt heads, she felt exhaustion overtake her. How the heck am I going to walk home like this? Her fatigue was enough to make her complain out loud. When she thought about it, she realized that this was the first time she had used up all her magical energy, and the first time she had participated in a battle of the scale without any prior preparation. Though in truth, it would have ended in mutual destruction if I had been alone. She felt somewhat proud as she whispered those words. Normally it was something that she would beat herself up over, but instead she simply shrugged her shoulders with a bitter smile. After all, it was thanks to the person sleeping beside her. Hey, you can't hear me, can you? As if the night had swallowed her voice before it reached him, she received no response. Confident, she continued in an even quieter voice. So, thank you. You really got me out of a jam there. Of course, there was no response from Sojiro, and she was not expecting one. Saying it for the record was enough. Aoko watched Sojiro sleep for a while, then pulled something out of her pocket. It was a palm-sized glass bottle her roommate had given her, which she opened with a pop. But none of this matters. Leaving behind words colder than a winter chill at night, she called out his name. She barely sensed the bottle moving. As the silhouette of the fallen boy appeared to blur, she got the feeling that the weight of the bottle had increased slightly.
うわどうなってんだろうこれ
That's kinda weird. What appeared to be a human form could clearly be seen inside the glass. Alice Koronji's tools were mystics that confounded even the most knowledgeable of mages. As soon as Aoko tried to analyze them with logic or reason, she was already out of her depth. Knowing this all too well, Aoko closed the bottle and watched the boy disappear, as if by some magic trick. What the hell? What the hell?
手品じゃなくて魔法
Jeez, this is no stage trick. It's actual magic. What the hell is he? She muttered as she looked into the magical bottle. Its ways had not changed significantly, as she had no idea how it worked, but the one thing she did know was that there was a human being inside of it. Its light weight was almost unnerving, closer to an empty air than a human being. It was about as heavy as one would expect if they bottled a summer breeze, though it did not fit her image of Sojudo perfectly.
アリスの言う通り
It's just as Alice said, she muttered to one in particular as she recalled the
ほん
past.
と私
This
は
really isn't like me. Alko wore a bittersweet smile. Her usual moodiness was gone. It was a dangerous world out there. It was good to have someone to keep her on her toes. With a wry chuckle, she flicked the magical bottle with her finger and set off walking. What the heck is this man? What was that? She could hear a bell in the distance signaling the end of the play. An ephemeral dream gave way to reality. In the grand scheme of things, it had but an instant. As the actors exited stage left, the last of the lights silently flickered out, and so the long-dead amusement park played its final role. As a memory, a boy and a girl. What? What? Okay, there's still more. What? That felt like the climax of everything, and yet there's more. What is he? Why was he able to see them in the first place if they had like a barrier that guarded them? Oh. That was a lot. That was a lot. Holy crap, I have to decompress from that. Oh. You could have just ended it there, and I would be satisfied. But yet there's more. Holy. we're gonna have to end that there, because oh, that is an, oh, I don't have words for that right now. Holy. Yeah. I have to stop. So, enjoy the night, y'all. Oh. Night.